Chapter 116. The calendar on the wall showed that it was November 24, 1990. Feng Bujue worked for a company that manufactured electronic equipment. It was considered a big company in town, but it was still a far cry from those in the big city. Before Feng Bujue started his investigation, he reached into his pocket as usual. The 3 keys appeared again. This meant that he would need to use them soon. As someone who lived in the 2050s, if there was a computer before him, the first thing he would do was open it. Then there was no then. Looking at the black screen and the blinking cursor, Feng Bujue, who knew nothing about DOS, was dumbfounded. He helplessly flipped through the paper documents on the table. After 20 minutes, he was sure that they were all useless papers. Therefore, he went to look through the drawers one by one. As expected, one of the drawers was locked. He took out the key to try, and there was one that fit. After opening the drawer, Feng Bujue saw a large envelope. It was bulging. Underneath the large envelope was a smaller envelope with the word resignation written on it. Feng Bujue looked around suspiciously before opening both envelopes. The larger envelope contained Hirata Shuichi's resume. This kid graduated from Kyoto University. No wonder he was able to become the vice director before the age of 30. Feng Bujue had no idea why he would want to start a career in a small town like this. Inside the small envelope was naturally the resignation letter. Feng Bujue took a look at it, and he had a rough idea of what had happened. This Hirata was a good person. He wanted to keep as many of the employees from poor families as possible, and he had already made up his mind to resign. After reading it, Feng Bujue put everything back, locked the drawer, and went to the toilet. The reason why he hid in the toilet cubicle was because he planned to use a decisive victory again. He didn't want to use it in an office with many people. If the splitting headache came again and he suddenly fell from his chair, it was possible that it would cause a commotion. Taking a deep breath, Feng Bujue activated his tidal skill. The result was the same as the last time he used it. He felt a piercing pain in his head. However, there was still no information about the boss in front of him. Only his own face flashed in front of him. This face was the same as the last time he saw it. Its expression was numb and its eyes were wide open, but there was no light in them. Just as Feng Bujue was holding his head and gradually recovering from the dizziness and headache, he heard the sound of the toilet door being opened. From the sound of footsteps, he could tell that 2 people had walked in. The 2 of them walked to the urinal, and while they were relieving themselves, they chatted with each other. "Hey, you saw it at the staircase, right?" "Ah, yes, that scumbag minister is getting bolder and bolder." "Shoo. Be careful not to let others hear you." "Tisk, so be it. After all, I've wanted to quit this job a long time ago. That Fukui, isn't it all his fault that the company is in this state?" The man gulped and said angrily, "He keeps making stupid decisions and pushing the blame onto others. I heard that this is not the first time he's been embezzling company funds. The company is facing bankruptcy, but a few days ago, he bought that luxurious manor house and moved in as if nothing had happened. It is because of people like him that everyone has lost their jobs. Sigh, even if we know that, what can we do?" By then, the 2 had reached the sink. After they washed their hands, there was the sound of a lighter lighting a cigarette. They each took a puff and said, "The most pitiful one is Hirata-kun. He always has to clean up that scumbag's mess." It was most likely that man's idea to have Hirata be in charge of the layoff. What a bad karma. I also heard that Hirata's house happened to be in the area that was most damaged by the previous typhoon. Now, he and his wife have no choice but to move to the longhouse in Sancho. Huh? Is that place even habitable? That's right. The man blew out a puff of smoke. But the worst thing is that his wife cheated on him behind his back. Yes, she was so openly flirting with the department head by the stairs. Even us bystanders couldn't stand it anymore. The man puffed out a puff of smoke as well. I heard that a few years ago, Hirata-kun gave up his bright future in Tokyo and purposely returned to his hometown for Haruko. Haruko was able to work at this company because Hirata-kun went around begging for help. But now, that woman is spending all day with that scumbag department head for money. She's doing these things right under her husband's nose. It's so disgusting. Fong Bujue was shocked listening to the conversation between the two NPCs. This scenario was definitely going to ruin his worldview. Hirata Shuichi's life was more than tragic. His house was destroyed by a typhoon, his wife slept with the scumbag, his job was almost gone, and he did not have much money left. He gave up his bright future and youth, and in the end, he got nothing in return. Furthermore, he kept running into ghosts and monsters every day. This kind of person should just end his own life. Hey, I think there's someone inside that cubicle. The two who were conversing suddenly lowered their voices. Have we been overheard? By the way, who is that? This is bad. When I passed the office earlier, Hirata-kun didn't seem to be in his seat. Could it be the two's voices were so soft that Fong Bujue could not hear them anymore? He was still considering how to get out of this situation. To his surprise, the problem was solved so quickly because Fong Bujue once again lost control of his body. That's impossible. Again? Fong Bujue asked. Don't tell me this scenario has 4 or more main storylines. Is there an end to this? The answer was yes, and it was already over. This time, even the system audio did not appear, and the scenery before Fong Bujue did not turn into cinematic. Instead, it turned into a projection on the wall. In that second, he found himself inside a room made of cement. There were no windows, and the door was no longer in his sight. When he came back to his senses, he found that he could suddenly see colors, and the clicking sound in his ears gradually became clearer. At that moment, Fong Bujue was wearing a restraining outfit meant for a mental patient. His arms were crossed before his chest, and his sleeves had no cuff. They went around his body and ended behind his back. His neck, waist, legs, and ankles were tied tightly by custom-made buckles. They secured his body to a chair, and he could only maintain a sitting position. Even moving left and right required a lot of effort. The most uncomfortable thing was that his eyelids were taped to his eye sockets, and they could not be closed. At that moment, his eyes felt dry and uncomfortable. The clicking sound came from a small projector on the table behind him. The device was aimed at the wall before Fong Bujue, and it projected a black and white image. The last image on the screen was the toilet that he had been in earlier. Someone reached out and snapped twice before Fong Bujue's eyes. Fong Bujue turned his eyes around and saw a man in his 30s. He was wearing an old checkered suit. The suit looked old-fashioned, but the material and workmanship were exquisite, which meant that it was expensive. The man wore a pair of black-rimmed glasses and had a normal hairstyle. He looked normal and kind, but when he looked at Fong Bujue, there was confusion in his eyes. Hirata-kun, are you okay? The man asked. Who are you? Fong Bujue asked. The man's expression shifted, and he took out a mini flashlight from his pocket. He aimed it at Fong Bujue's eyes and leaned closer to study them. Fong Bujue's eyes were stung by the light, and he felt even worse. Hey, don't do that. It's too bright. Who are you? Doctor? I am Dr. Watanabe, don't you remember me? The man asked. How did I get here? What am I doing? Fong Bujue asked. I told you, doctor, you're wasting your time. Another voice came from behind Fong Bujue. It was his blind spot, but the owner of the voice soon walked up from behind him. The man was in his 50s. His sideburns were white, and his face was fierce and resolute. He wore a trench coat and held a half-smoked cigarette in his hand. Officer Tachibana, please don't interrupt me. This is very important, Watanabe said. Tisk. Tachibana put out the cigarette with annoyance. He put his hands in his pockets and stared at Fong Bujue, or rather, at Hirata Shuichi. Have you remembered anything, Hirata-kun? Hirata-kun, Watanabe asked. Fong-bujue did not know how to answer. The only thing he could confirm was that the 3 stories that he had experienced earlier were all from Hirata Shuichi's memory. He decided to tell the truth and see what kind of feedback this NPC would give him. I was walking home when I ran into a woman with a split mouth. Just as he said that, Tachibana beside him roared, "You be **starred. Are you done yet?" He wanted to grab Fong-bujue's hair, but thankfully, Dr. Watanabe stepped in to stop him. "Officer, please calm down." Watanabe stopped him. "Officer." Fong-bujue had been thinking about the situation that he was in. Then, he came up with a bold hypothesis. "Did I kill someone?" "Did you kill someone?" Tachibana repeated his question and then laughed mirthlessly. "You've finally admitted to your crime, haven't you? I thought you were going to deny it until the end." "Dr. Watanabe, are you a psychiatrist?" Fong-bujue turned to ask. "Yes," Watanabe answered. "Then, you must know about multiple personality disorder, right?" Watanabe hesitated before answering. "Of course, I know about it. What is the meaning of this? This kid is trying to play crazy to get away with it?" Tachibana, who stood to the side, yelled. His anger was about to set his hair on fire. Fong-bujue ignored him and said, "I'm not Hirata Shuichi." Chapter 117. Fong-bujue said, "You can call me, Mr. F." "Damn it." Tachibana cursed as he closed in on Fong-bujue. From the looks of it, it was quite likely that he would pounce on Fong-bujue. Dr. Watanabe reached out to block him as he asked Fong-bujue, "Mr. F, do you know where Officer Yamada's body is?" Fong-bujue replied, "No, I don't know who Yamada is, but I can roughly guess what happened." "Is that so? Then, Mr. F, does Hirata know of your existence?" Watanabe asked. "In the past. He shouldn't have known of my existence, but now, I'm not sure either." Fong-bujue replied. "I only have vague memories of Hirata's crimes, so I have some questions for you, Dr. Watanabe." Tachibana yelled from the side, "Doctor? This kid is obviously making up a name at the last minute. He's trying to bluff his way out by claiming he has schizophrenia." Watanabe said, "Verifying the authenticity of these symptoms is part of my job. Inspector, please trust me and allow me to do what I'm supposed to do." TSK. Watanabe walked out of Fong-bujue's line of sight and stood at a corner behind him. Soon, there was the sound of him lighting up a cigarette again. Watanabe sighed and turned to ask Fong-bujue, "What do you want to ask?" "I've been watching the recording, right?" Fong-bujue asked. "Yes," Watanabe answered. "Why would you show me the recording?" Watanabe stared into Fong-bujue's eyes and organized his words. Then he said, "You know, after Hirata was arrested, he showed serious signs of hallucination. He insisted that he had not killed anyone." He paused. "He told the police that he had only killed a monster. You're here to confirm whether Hirata has really lost his mind or not?" Fong-bujue asked. "Yes." "What was the recording you showed me earlier?" "It was recorded with the assistance of the police. It was a replay of some relevant footage," Watanabe answered. "Did you play it for me in reverse chronological order?" Fong-bujue asked. Watanabe paused for a moment. "Yes, this will make it easier to awaken your..." Before he could finish, Fong-bujue interrupted, "Can you play it again in order for me to see?" Watanabe and Tachibana exchanged glances. Tachibana was furious and didn't want to say anything. He just nodded slightly. Watanabe walked to the table and fiddled with it a few times. The projector started moving again. "Doctor, can you remove the tape?" "Let me blink." Fong-bujue said. "All right." Watanabe agreed without hesitation. He did not want to do this in the first place, but Hirata Shuichi had screamed and screamed in shock when he saw the picture on the wall. That was why the Tachibana Police Department had made such a big deal out of it. Fong Bujue had some clues in his mind, but he needed more evidence to support his hypothesis. The video started playing. The image was in black and white, and there was no speaker attached to the projector. Other than the clicking sound, there was no other sound. Of course, there was no need for any sound. The content of the video was simple, and the length was short. It only replayed a few key scenes to help the crazed Hirata Shuichi remember what had happened. The actors were all from the police station, and the person filming was Dr. Watanabe. The first part of the video, the first scene, was inside Hirata's company. At first, the camera focused on Hirata's desk. The next scene was inside the staircase. A man and a woman were hugging each other, pretending to be intimate. The third scene was inside the toilet. The two men were smoking and chatting. This part is based on the testimony of two of Hirata's colleagues, Watanabe explained. They said that Hirata overheard their conversation in the toilet that day, and that might have given him the motive to kill Hirata. Fong Bujue nodded as he focused his attention on the screen. The second part soon started, and it was the most crucial part. The camera started with a panoramic view of a manor house. It captured the address, Rokubanko number 4-5. There was a garden in front of the manor house. The second scene showed the interior of the manor house. There was a spacious foyer and a staircase that led to the second floor. The third scene took place inside the room where Fong Bujue saw the monster. The third scene recorded an officer who played Hirata holding a fake gun pushed open the door and walked into the room. A female officer who played Haruko was lying on the bed. The other person played the minister. When he saw the person with the gun walk in, he jumped up from the bed in a panic. As he mumbled something, he walked around the bed to grab the gun. Then, the actor who played Hirata pretended to shoot him and killed him. This is the rough outline of the crime. Since there are no witnesses, Watanabe turned to look at Fong Bujue. Hirata's testimony cannot be used, so we can only speculate based on the investigation of the crime scene. By the way, what is the victim's name? Fong Bujue asked. Fukui Shinichiro. Officer Tachibana's low and raspy voice came from behind him. He is your boss at the company. The video soon reached the third part. In this part, the actor who played Hirata asked for directions from a passerby. According to the witness, that day, Hirata asked her for directions to Sanchome. Initially, he was calm, but suddenly, he started to look panicked. I believe that at the time, Hirata's mental state was at its breaking point. He not only forgot his own address, but he also started to hallucinate. The next scene in the video was a long house. Hirata's actor walked in and closed the door. The next scene showed an officer bending over to knock on the door. The neighbor's grandmother heard Hirata screaming at night, so she went to knock on the door to ask, but Hirata told her that he did not scream at all. He paused. However, the grandmother saw a strange shadow through the gap of the door, and she called the police. When the police arrived, they found Haruko's body hanging from the ceiling while Hirata sat calmly at the table, drinking tea. The police found Officer Yamada's gun, which had gone missing not long ago, inside the long house. The video ended there, and the room fell into a short silence. It was Officer Tachibana who broke the silence. Then, Mr. F., are you satisfied now? Quickly tell us Yamada's whereabouts and plead guilty, he said impatiently, or do you plan to pretend to have lost your memory again and call yourself Mr. A or Mr. B? Fong Bujue ignored him and fell into deep thought. After a full 5 minutes he asked, what is the date today? Chapter 118. December 2nd, Watanabe answered. Fong Bujue asked, the first video took place on November 24th, correct? That's right. Then, what are the dates of the second and third videos? Fong Bujue asked again. Watanabe did not answer immediately. He seemed to need some time to think about it, but Officer Tachibana was more familiar with the case, so he answered, Fukui was shot on November 26th. That afternoon, he sent all the helpers away. The reason was, to meet your wife, Haruko Sato. When he said that, he hesitated for a moment, probably trying to come up with a more suitable explanation. Personally, I think a man like Fukui deserved to die, but you dragged my men into this because you wanted to get the murder weapon. I will not show you any mercy. Watanabe then added, Fukui's body was only found the next day at noon. Since it was a gunshot, the investigation was very careful. That day, Hirata-kun went to work as usual. He was very calm, but Haruko Sato was absent from work. That night, the incident in the third video took place. Then, Officer Yamada's disappearance should have happened between the time Hirata left the company on November 24th and the morning of November 26th, right? Officer Tachibana answered. On the night of the 25th, he rode his bicycle out on patrol, and no one saw him after that. Has the bicycle been discovered? Fong Bujua asked. I'm asking you where he is. Tachibana yelled. So, there isn't one. Fong Bujua sighed. I see. Kid, do you need a beating from that tone? Tachibana tossed away the cigarette butt and charged at Chungu again. Fong Bujua ignored him and continued, based on what I know, the security in Japan is not bad. The ratio of police officers to the population is quite high. If this is a big city, only the police officers and special forces will be armed with guns. But in a small town like this, I believe, everything from security to criminal cases will be handled by a fixed and limited number of people, so it is not surprising that Yamada would become a target. He paused for a moment before continuing. Here's what I'm thinking. Assuming that Hirata plans to steal Yamada's gun, he has two options. The first is to steal it and the second is to rob it. Stealing a gun requires skill, not to mention stealing a police gun. Once caught, he would definitely go to jail, and his intention to murder Fukui would be exposed. Hirata did not care about the consequences of his actions, but that was under the premise that he had successfully killed Fukui. Before he completed his crime, he would not allow anything to go wrong. Then, the probability of snatching was obviously higher than stealing. Of course, the crime was also heavier. However, a man who planned to kill had already realized this. Since it was a robbery, there was no need for any skills. He just needed to find a place where there was no one around at night, attack the defenseless Yamada from behind, and then take away the gun. But if that was the case, Yamada wouldn't have gone missing. At most, he would have fainted on the side of the road. Now that Yamada has indeed gone missing, it means that there was an accident when Hirata tried to steal the gun. Perhaps he only planned to knock Officer Yamada out, but he accidentally killed him during the operation. UB****. This time, Tachibana was serious. He walked forward to grab Fong Bujua by the collar. You've finally admitted to your crime. Tell me, where is Yamada's body? Fong Bujua continued to explain calmly. I don't know. I'm just speculating based on the clues that you've given me. At this point, Tachibana landed a heavy punch on his stomach. His life points dropped by 30%, and he was inflicted with the status of paralysis. Officer Tachibana. Watanabe walked forward to pull the man away. Please do not abuse your authority on the suspect. Suspect? This kid has killed at least 2 people. Tachibana roared. That's enough, Officer Tachibana. That's enough, Watanabe advised. Fong Bujua had no choice but to swallow the insult. The breath in his chest was uneven, and it took him a long time to catch his breath. Without even realizing it, he was immersed in the joy of deduction. This punch made him realize that he was inside a nightmare mode scenario. Even if the 2 NPCs before him were humanoid NPCs that he could communicate with, there was no such thing as safety. Any small mistake could lead to his death. If he said the wrong thing, or even if his attitude was bad, there was a chance that he would trigger a death flag. Any random NPC could kill him instantly. Ha! Ha! Fong Bujua gasped for air and swallowed. He continued the sentence that was interrupted earlier. If Hirata ambushed Officer Yamada when he was on patrol and killed him, then, the bike should have been found. Tachibana seemed to have calmed down, and Watanabe released his grip. The two of them turned to look at Fongbujiwa, waiting to hear what he had to say. When Hirata realized that he had accidentally killed an officer, there were only two possible reactions. The first was to grab the gun and run. The second was to deal with the body before running away. Even if it was the second scenario, he wouldn't have been able to move the body and the bike at the same time. At most, he would have tossed the bike to an inconspicuous corner and tried to move the body away. At this point, he paused. By the way, does Hirata own a car? No, Watanabe replied. Actually, he doesn't have a driver's license. Then, we can basically rule out the possibility that he ran over Yamada with his car and tossed the body and the bike into the trunk. Fongbujiwa said with some thought. He paused for about 10 seconds to arrange his thoughts. I have 3 hypotheses. First, after Hirata ambushed Yamada, he dragged the body away and disposed of it in a secluded place. The bike was left by the side of the road and was found by a third person. This third person probably didn't witness the crime, and that was why he dared to pick up the bike. The chance of him being a homeless person is very high. Perhaps he has already left the small town, or perhaps he found out that the bike was related to some incident and tossed it into the river out of fear or even dismantled it. Second, after Hirata ambushed Yamada, the latter did not die or faint, and he even saw Hirata's face clearly. Hirata had no choice. If he let Yamada go, he would be arrested soon. Therefore, he had no choice but to use the gun that he had stolen to kidnap Yamada and drag him to a secluded place to detain him or kill him. If that was the case, Yamada was the one who pushed the bike away, and Hirata was the one holding him hostage. Third, after Hirata realized that he had accidentally killed Yamada, he did run away with the gun. However, after he left, someone else must have gotten rid of the body and the bike. What do you mean? Do you have an accomplice? Officer Tachibana demanded sternly. That is just a logical hypothesis. Theoretically, that is completely possible. For example, someone might have seen what happened in the dark, and that person happened to know Hirata personally. Therefore, after Hirata escaped, he cleaned up the crime scene to try and cover up the incident. In the future, he could use this incident to extort money from Hirata. In fact, he could even have Hirata use the gun to kill someone for him, Fongbujiwa answered. That's enough. That's enough of your bullshit. When are you going to stop pretending? Tell us Yamada's whereabouts now. Officer Tachibana's patience had reached its limit. Please wait a moment. There are still some things that I'm not sure about, Fongbujiwa said. On the afternoon of the 24th of November, Hirata came up with a motive to kill Yamada. On the night of the 25th of November, he managed to get the gun from Yamada. On the afternoon of the 26th of November, he went to Fukui's mansion to catch Yamada in the act of committing murder. He looked at Watanabe. Since there are no witnesses, how do you know that Haruko was in the room when Hirata broke into the room that afternoon? That was based on Hirata's own description and the conclusion from the investigation of the crime scene, Watanabe said. He said that when he opened the door, he saw Haruko lying on the bed. A monster was attacking Haruko, so he used the gun to kill the monster. Then, we asked him where he got the gun, but he said that he couldn't remember. So Haruko didn't die at the time? Fongbujiwa asked. On the night of the 27th, the police received a call and rushed to the scene. They found Haruko Sato's body inside Hirata's house. From the evidence left behind at the scene, it was a suicide. The estimated time of death was the afternoon of the 27th. At the time, Hirata was working at the company as usual, Watanabe said. In other words, on the 26th, after Hirata went to the mansion to kill someone, he brought Haruko home. The next day, Hirata showed up at the company as if nothing had happened, but his wife committed suicide at home. Feng Bujue continued. It's unlikely that Haruko Sato committed suicide to commit suicide with her lover. She also did not report the case to the police. That means that her suicide was either due to mental trauma or due to guilt and fear toward her husband. There's no need for you to repeat things that we already know, Tachibana grumbled impatiently. What you already know, these 3 videos have more or less been reconstructed. Feng Bujue continued. But what you don't know is Officer Yamada's whereabouts. They are stored in Hirata Shuichi's mind, which has already gone mad. He moved his gaze to Dr. Watanabe's face. So, Dr. Watanabe is trying to help you awaken Hirata's memory? Have you remembered anything? Watanabe asked. Mr. F? I'm sorry, Feng Bujue answered. The memory that I saw was also from the 3 videos, but the content was different from the ones in your videos. What I saw appeared to be the world of monsters in Hirata's imagination. Watanabe sighed. When a person's brain is seriously traumatized, their memory might be affected. For example, if a person was beaten or tortured when he was young, due to the pain of the memory being too much for his mind to handle, his brain might seal off the related memory, and the person will forget everything that happened as if it never happened. Sometimes, the memory is not sealed but changed. For example, in Hirata-san's case, perhaps in his memory, he only remembered that he saw his wife being attacked by a monster, but in reality. Chungo continued, sometimes the memory is not sealed off but changed, like Hirata-san. Perhaps in his memory, he only remembers seeing his wife being attacked by monsters, but in reality. I know that. Feng Bujue cut him off. I know a thing or two about this. He moved his neck that was pinned down and uncomfortable. When one's memory is sealed, it might lead to multiple personality disorder, and if it is changed, it might lead to hallucinations. After all that, where is Yamada? Do you know or not? Do you remember? Officer Tachibana stood before Feng Bujue and glared at him harshly. It looked like he was going to use violence again. Even though Feng Bujue did not want to take another punch, he had no way of resisting. His whole body was bound, and he could only take the beating. He did not attempt to use body enhancement spell because based on the setting and the words and actions of these 2 NPCs, if he suddenly used that kind of supernatural skill, then, before he managed to break free, Watanabe would be scared into retreating, and Tachibana would draw their guns without hesitation. That kind of development would lead to his death. To find out where Yamada is, I have to go back. Feng Bujue said in a hurry. What did you say? Tachibana was confused. I have to return to that black and white world to investigate, Feng Bujue said. Watanabe looked at him and frowned. You mean you have to return to Hirata's mental world? He asked probingly. How do you do that? Watch the video again? No, that's no longer useful. Feng Bujue said. Didn't I watch the video earlier? I only saw the normal footage. When Hirata was watching the video, I experienced the distorted memory in his mental world, and then I was transported here. Is there any way for me to return? He said darkly. And I have to return to a time before the evening of November 25th. Very good. Since you're willing to cooperate, you can talk to the doctor now. Tachibana's tone suddenly changed. It was so calm that it was unsettling. Feng Bujue was startled when he heard that. What? He turned to look at Watanabe. Haven't I been talking to Dr. Watanabe? Watanabe cut him off. You've already recovered the memory of the case and recognized your mental condition. You've also locked onto the memory blind spot of Yamada, so we can rest easy now. Feng Bujue had no idea what they were talking about. You two suddenly, before he could finish his question, he lost the ability to speak because he had returned to the state where he was watching the cinematic from the first-person perspective. The scene before his eyes changed again. Feng Bujue felt like he was being toyed with by this scenario. Initially, He thought it was a normal ghost story setting, and then he thought it was a supernatural event that progressed through multiple storylines. In the end, he realized that the first 3 incidents were in a reverse timeline, and they were merely the distorted memory of a mental patient. The scenario had turned into a murder in the real world. And then, he had no idea what was going to happen next. Buzz. It was the sound of an incandescent lamp. A blinding white light jolted Feng Bujue out of his temporary daze. He closed one of his eyes and turned his head to the side. After 2 seconds, he got used to the sudden increase in light, and he could see his surroundings clearly. Feng Bujue was wearing a patient's garb with stripes on it. He was sitting before a table. His hands were cuffed to the arms of the chair, and his feet were cuffed together. There was a lamp on the table, and there were some paper documents spread out on the table. Sitting across from the table was a man in a white coat. He looked to be in his 50s, and his forehead was crawling with wrinkles. He was holding a piece of paper in his hand, and he was using a pen to write something on it. There was a mini tape recorder next to him. The room was not enclosed. There was a very small window with iron bars at the top. An ray of moonlight filtered through the gap. There was a bed in the corner of the room, and there was a toilet in the other corner. The walls were no longer the monotonous color of cement, but they were painted with soft and bright colors. Feng Bujue could see the door that led to the exit. There was a very small window above the door. The window was not made of glass but was filled with a very tight, intersecting iron mesh. There was a board at the bottom of the door, and it appeared like it could only be opened from the outside. That should be the opening for the prisoner to deliver food. Then, Hirata-kun, if you're ready, let's start this conversation, the man in the white coat said. Feng Bujue sighed. I'm sorry, but there are 3 things that I need you to tell me. The man was silent for 2 seconds, and he looked at him with a frown. What are they? Who are you, where am I, and today's date? Feng Bujue asked. The man took a deep breath and sighed heavily. Sigh. He picked up the mini-tape recorder next to him, pressed the recording button, and spoke into his mouth. March 9, 2005, Patient 0098, Hirata Shuichi. Recorder Takura Taro. Takura placed the recorder to the side and told Feng Bujue, You don't remember me? Feng Bujue ignored him. He tried his best to lower his head and touch his face with the back of his hand. After touching it twice, he could confirm that his face had not aged by 15 years. Even though he looked like he was wearing a prisoner's outfit, when he opened the game menu, the outfit tab had not changed. Regardless, from the NPC's perspective, the man before him was undeniably Hirata Shuichi in his 40s. You. Takura appeared to be a very perceptive person. Who are you? Are you Hirata? Watanabe? Tachibana? Or someone else? There was a lot of information in this question, but Feng Bujue reacted quickly. I have multiple personality disorder? Yes, Takura replied. He picked up the document and sighed. Since 1991, when you were sent here, many doctors have participated in your treatment and research. Currently, there are 3 confirmed personalities. The main one is Hirata Shuichi, and there are 2 others. One is a psychiatrist called Watanabe, and the other is a police officer called Tachibana. So, which one are you? Or none of them? Feng Bujue leaned back in his chair. You can call me Mr. F. He looked at the ceiling. Watanabe represents Hirata's rationality and wisdom, and Tachibana represents Hirata's conscience and self-blame. As for Hirata himself, I don't know. I haven't met him before. Mr. F? Rationality? Conscience. Gaotsong coldly snorted. All right, Mr. F. Then what do you represent? Your identity, occupation. Me? Feng Bujue smiled. I am a mystery novelist. I came from a higher dimension and entered this body. He looked relaxed. I am slowly breaking out of some kind of cage created by my own thoughts. The main body could be the Hirata that I have not met before, or it could be something else. From the most chaotic and blurry memory world, I broke through to the mental world of the subconscious. Then, I picked up some important memories and arrived here. He nudged his body forward. Now, I seriously suspect that Dr. Takura, you, and this prison cell, are real or just a symbol of another prison. Chapter 119. Taka sighed deeply. He turned his head and said into the tape recorder next to him, 0098 has gained a new persona. He calls himself Mr. F, the mystery novelist. Mr. F has the same surreal hallucination as Hirata Shuichi's main persona. He believes that he is a spiritual entity from a higher dimension and is currently possessing this body. Fong Bujua waited for him to finish before he asked the question that he had been meaning to ask. Doctor, since it is now 2005, then Hirata's case should have been closed a long time ago. How did the case end? 2 cases of premeditated murder, and one of them was a police officer. The circumstances were serious, but considering your motive and mental state, the final verdict was life imprisonment. Is this a mental hospital? Fong Bujua asked. This is a prison for the mentally ill, Taka answered. Every quarter, we conduct a new assessment on all the inmates. He paused. That is why we are talking now. How has Hirata been in the past 15 years? Fong Bujua asked. More normal than you are now, Taka replied. When Hirata-kun was conscious, he told me that whenever he was reminded of the past, he would enter a black and white world. No matter how many times he did it, all he saw was the memory of ghosts. Sometimes, the personas of Watanabe and Tachibana would appear, and then Hirata-kun would talk to himself. I have tried to communicate with these 2 personas, and the details that they described matched with the police record. I believe that these 2 personas did not really remember what happened at the time. They merely treated what the police told Hirata as their own memory. His gaze moved away from the document to fall on Fong Bujua's face. What about you? Mr. F, you seem to be very interested in that case. That means that you have no idea what really happened, right? Yes, I was about to ask you that. 15 years have passed, and since the verdict was 2 cases of premeditated murder, then Officer Yamada's body should have been found by now, right? Fong Bujua asked. Officer Yamada's body was only found 7 years after the case, Taka replied. It was around that time that I started to get in touch with you. What? Yamada's body couldn't even be found back then. How can you convict him of 2 murders? Fong Bujua asked. Well, Gaotsang said, based on the situation at that time, the case was very clear. Hirata-kun has lost his mind, and he has no one to rely on. There is no one who can stand up for him. The lawyer that the court assigned to him will plead guilty, so, basically, whatever the prosecutor says is the truth. All the evidence points to the same fact, which is that he killed the police, stole the gun, and then went on a rampage. Ridiculous. Fong Bujua said, before we rule out all possibilities, how can we take it for granted? Perhaps Yamada killed Fukui and then hid the gun in Hirata's house. Then, he strangled Haruko Sato, who was in the longhouse at the time, and made it look like a suicide. Finally, he escaped. If that is the case, it would explain why Hirata went to work on the 27th as if nothing had happened. Gaotsang looked at him for 2 seconds. Haha. Mr. F, if you appeared 15 years ago and defended yourself as Hirata Shuichi, you might have been able to get away with it. He picked up a document from the table. Unfortunately, today there are at least 2 points that can overturn your hypothesis. First, Yamada has no connection with Fukui, Hirata, and Haruko Sato. The police have already investigated them. Regardless of whether they were relatives or friends, they had nothing to do with each other. Therefore, he had no motive to do these things. Second, the place where Yamada's body was found was under Hirata's old house that was destroyed by a typhoon. The plot of land was sold by the government 7 years later, and the body was dug up when they were building the foundation for the building. The time of death is estimated to be 7 years ago. Even though the body has been reduced to bones, there are obvious signs of death from external injuries. This is undoubtedly a case of murder and hiding the body. Feng Bujue was silent for a few seconds before he replied, "Fine, actually, I was just dissatisfied with the trial process and came up with a random hypothesis that could be used as a defense." "There is no doubt about Hirata's crime, Mr. F," Gaotsong said. "Now, since I have satisfied your curiosity, why don't you cooperate with me and answer some of my questions? As I expected, you are not real." Feng Bujue interrupted Gaotsong and thought internally, "I finally understand the meaning of this scenario." Gaotsong's face fell, and he suddenly stopped talking. "You said that not long after Yamada's body was found, you started to interact with Hirata. When I heard that, I understood everything." Feng Bujue said. 7 years after the crime, when Hirata found out that Yamada's body had been found, he developed another persona. You mean to say that I am the same kind of existence as Tachibana and Watanabe? No, you are on a higher level than them. From how I see it, there should be 4 layers to Hirata's mental world. Feng Bujue explained slowly. In November 1990, after Hirata committed 2 murders and witnessed his wife commit suicide, he went insane. From then on, most of his time, his mind was trapped in the deepest layer, a world of terror and chaos. 1 month later, the investigation of the case became clearer. Hirata was interrogated multiple times, and he gained some information from the court. Therefore, he developed 2 new personas, Dr. Watanabe and Officer Tachibana. These 2 personas could bring him out from the black and white chaos and into the second layer of the world, giving him some time to breathe. They also helped and urged him to deny the memory of ghosts and monsters and try to restore his real memory. Feng Bujue licked his dry lips. The most a psychiatrist can do is to hypnotize the criminal to interrogate them. They would not go as far as recording them. I should have known that the space that Watanabe and Tachibana were in was also a mental world. That place is a subconscious that is deeper than this place. It is somewhere between rational thought and twisted memory. He stared into Takakura's eyes. And you, or rather, this cell that we are in now, is the 3rd layer. Then, what do I represent? Takakura asked. You are also a memory, Feng Bujue said. You represent the normal and trustworthy memory in Hirata's mind over the past 8 years. He leaned back in his chair and raised his head. He wanted to rub the bridge of his nose out of habit, but he realized that his hands were still cuffed, so he had no choice but to continue. Time has dulled some things. After 7 years of psychiatric treatment, with the help of the other 2 personalities, and the fact that he found out about Yamada's death and the location of his death in prison, Hirata was sent to this 3rd floor. On this layer, he can converse with you and analyze things objectively and calmly, accepting and understanding the current situation. If Hirata can stay here with you and not return to the 2 deeper layers, even if he cannot recover his memory, at least he will be able to recover to a normal person. Feng Bujue's eyes moved to the mini-tape recorder. The recorder is the conversation between you and him, or rather, it is the memory that he has personally organized. That is why I said that these memories are normal and trustworthy. He does not want to be mixed up with other memories. But the presence of this recorder proves that Hirata's time here is limited. Takakura's face was filled with helplessness. Mr. F, you're basically right, but I regret to inform you that there are only 3 layers here. He sighed. This place is the layer that is closest to the real world. He looked around. This recorder and the documents on the table, they are all part of Hirata's memory. This room is basically a projection of Hirata's cell in real life, but there is no table, chair, or lamp in the real cell. There are only 3 layers? Feng Bujue asked. How is that possible? Confusion appeared on his face, and he thought to himself, The memory that gave rise to Hirata's motivation has been recovered. The memory of him killing Fukui has been recovered but is distorted. Even though the memory of him witnessing Haruko Sato hang herself is also distorted, it has been recovered as well. These should have surfaced before and after he was arrested, but how come he has no memory of killing Yamada? Even 7 years later, when he found out about Yamada's death, Takakura's persona only provided limited information. He knew nothing about the murder. Impossible. If there is no further layer, then it means that Hirata has nothing to do with Officer Yamada's death. Fong Bujue stated firmly. That memory does not exist in his brain, so it cannot be found on any layer. Takakura shook his head. But the facts have pointed out. Give me a mirror, Fong Bujue interrupted him. What do you want to do? Takakura asked. I want to leave this place, Fong Bujue answered. At most, you will return to the real world, and when you return to the real world, it means that Hirata will return to me or fall down 2 layers deeper. Takakura appeared to be advising him. I'm not going up, Fong Bujue said. I'm going next door. Next door? What do you mean? Takakura asked. You won't understand. Fong Bujue finally adopted the posture of a higher dimensional life form. Just give me a mirror. In the blink of an eye, Dr. Takakura disappeared, and only Fong Bujue was left in the room. On the table before him, a small mirror with a frame appeared. Behind the frame was a plastic holder that supported the mirror and made it stand diagonally upward. Fong Bujue dragged the chair forward until he was at an angle where he could look into the mirror. He saw that the man in the mirror was not himself. It was a man who looked to be in his 40s, with an unshaven beard and a pale face. Hirata Shuichi, we finally meet, Fong Bujue said to the face in the mirror. He had seen Hirata's resume in the black and white world, and there was a picture on it. Even though the face before him had aged by more than 10 years, he could still recognize it. Chapter 120. Who are you? The face in the mirror really did speak to Fong Bujue. I don't know you. Who I am is not important, Fong Bujue replied as he shot the man a sharp gaze. The important thing is, who are you? Of course, I am Hirata Shuichi, the man replied. No, you're not. You just look like him, Fong Bujue said. Stop pretending. I know there is another personality inside this body. No one knows about your existence. Hirata doesn't know about it, Takura doesn't know about it, Watanabe and Tachibana, none of them know about it, he said confidently. You are the mastermind behind the case from 15 years ago. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. The man started to laugh. No matter who you are much smarter than that idiot. You can call me Mr. F, Fong Bujue said. You can call me Hirata Shuichi, the man said. You are Hirata Shuichi. Then who is the mental patient who has been locked up in prison for 15 years? Fong Bujue asked. He is an idiot who shares the same name as me. That's all, the man replied. Understood. Fong Bujue said. I wish to ask, when did you part ways with that idiot? Fong Bujue followed the man's lead and asked a question. When I graduated from university, the man replied. Humph. Fong Bujue laughed. I get it now. How about this, for the sake of convenience, I will call you Hirata and that idiot Shuichi. Suit yourself, Hirata said. After graduating from Beijing University, Hirata, you planned to move to the big city, but Shuichi insisted on returning to the small town in his hometown. Is that correct? Fong Bujue asked. Don't you think you're making light of the situation? That idiot. The Hirata in the mirror had a cruel smile on his face. He gave up on the opportunity to work in Tokyo and initiated a breakup with Miss Miko. She is the daughter of a big financial group's CEO. Many men have their eyes on her. Then, that idiot returned to his hometown, married his childhood sweetheart, and went to work in an inconspicuous small business. Look at his end, that bitch Haruko had an affair with Fukui behind his back, and he worked so hard, But the company still collapsed because of a scum who filled his pockets. My 6 years of life, the future of this life, was ruined in the hands of that idiot. I see. Feng Bujue said. When he graduated from university, Xioi made a huge and painful choice in life. Hence, you and he were split into two personalities. Xioi was a very honest and kind person. He chose to return to his hometown to get married. As for you, Hirata, you're ambitious and capable. You're tough and ruthless, but in the end, you still lost to Shuichi. He paused for a moment. It was not until 6 years later, on November 24, 1990, that Hirata overheard the conversation between his colleagues in the toilet. He collapsed, and then you gained the upper hand and gained control of the body. That's a good guess, Mr. F., Hirata answered. You hated Xioi, hated the choice he made that year, hated his character, and hated him for ruining your bright future. Feng Bujue continued. You wanted revenge and completely ruined his life. He thought about it for 2 seconds and started to analyze the previous case. As a well-educated, capable, and ruthless person, when it comes to committing a crime, you're much better than Xioi. If you wanted to kill Fukui, there were many ways, but killing Fukui was not enough. Based on the nature of the case and the circumstances, Shioi's sentence after killing Fukui would be light. His colleagues and even Haruko would appear in court to speak on his behalf. Perhaps he would be released after a few years in prison. Feng Bujue laughed. So, you first went to kill a police officer and then used the officer's gun to kill Fukui. This kind of case, Xioi would not be able to get away with it. You're quite impressive. Logically speaking, the act of killing a police officer could be explained. Even if Xioi could not remember it, there was nothing he could say in front of the evidence. If you killed a random passerby to expand your crime, then Xioi, who had no motive and no memory of that incident, would be treated as suffering from multiple personality disorder. Then, even his murder of Fukui could be explained away as a mental issue. Feng Bujue sighed. Phew. That's why people who are good at scheming are the scariest. He shrunk his neck. If I were to do this case, on the day of November 25th, I would first bring the burial tools to the planned location of the murder. The ruins of the old house that was destroyed by the typhoon would be a good choice. First, you would be familiar with the area. Second, no matter if it was day or night, even if you were spotted by someone you knew, you could easily come up with a reason to be there. In any case, at night, you would have randomly found a patrolling officer with a gun. You would have made up a reason to lure him there, ambush him, and then hide on the spot. Actually, you didn't plan to hide for too long. As long as you weren't discovered before you killed Fukui, everything would have been fine. However, the government didn't pay attention to the area until 7 years later. You came up with all that based on your own speculation? Hirata asked. Yes, actually, I should have figured it out a long time ago, but at the beginning, I didn't know about your existence. Feng Bujue replied. Xioi wouldn't have done something like that. He's a far cry from you. Even if he wanted to steal the gun, he wouldn't have killed someone for it. At most, he would have planned to knock someone out from behind, hoping that before he killed Fukui, he wouldn't have been exposed. His eyes darted around and he smiled. But Hirata, you're different. If you were the one who committed the crime, I would have been able to come up with the above hypothesis with confidence. Humph. Then why don't you continue to guess what happened next? Hirata asked. What happened next is very simple. When you took control of the body, Xioi was in a state where he had no memory. Feng Bujue answered. On the afternoon of the 26th, without a doubt, you knew very well that Haruko had left home to go find Fukui. Therefore, you placed a piece of paper with the number 4 to 5 Rokabanko written on it in your pocket, carried the gun, and went to Fukui's manor house. Then, you temporarily returned the body to Xioi. He suddenly regained consciousness and didn't know what to do. There was a gun in his pocket, and that scared him. Then, he saw that piece of paper and went to Fukui's manor house in a daze. He ran into them on the second floor. Someone like Fukui would have walked toward Shioi while yelling and cursing, trying to chase him away. Rage, pain, confusion, or perhaps some kind of psychological suggestion that you placed on him. There were countless possibilities that could have caused Shioi to pull the gun and shoot him. That was almost certain to happen. This was a trap that you set. At that point, Shioi had a second memory. Not long after he fired the gun, you took control of the body again and carried out the next step. Chapter 121. Obviously, there are some things that Hiruchi wouldn't have done, like leaving Fukui's body unattended. Fong Bujua said, "But you, Hirata-kun, your existence explains everything. For me, the moment you appeared, the whole case became a piece of cake. You couldn't have turned yourself in, that would have affected your sentence. You only brought Haruko Sato home and tried your best to scare her, to the point that she didn't dare call the police. From her perspective, she was responsible for her husband's sudden change in personality and Fukui's death, so it wasn't hard to scare her. After all, the gun had been emptied, so you hid it somewhere so that it would be discovered when the police searched. The next day, you went to work at Hiruchi's company as if nothing had happened. You were stronger than him, he didn't know about your existence, but you had all his memories. You purposely went to his company to wait for the police to investigate. The police only needed to get a brief understanding of the situation, and you would naturally be arrested to assist in the investigation. But because the body wasn't discovered until noon on the 27th, nothing happened until it was time to get off work. On the way home, perhaps on a whim, you returned the body to Hiruchi because you wanted to see how the two of them would react when he returned home to face Haruko. At that time, Hiruchi's mental state was on the verge of collapse. He was so distracted that he couldn't even remember the way home. That was the start of his third memory. Then, when he returned to the longhouse and opened the door to see his wife hanging herself, his mental state collapsed completely, and he started to scream. The old lady next door heard the commotion and came to knock on the door. You took over the body to deal with her, purposely letting her see something strange before sending her away, waiting for her to call the police. At the end of the day, you just didn't want to call the police and turn yourself in. In the end, as you wished, the police came to the longhouse to arrest you and found Yamada's gun. That explains why you were drinking tea so calmly at the time. After you were arrested, your revenge plan was considered a success. You returned to the conscious world until today. As for Shuichi, he went mad. The prison imprisoned his physical body, and the 3 remaining memories in his mind were distorted into terrifying images, tormenting his mind day and night. He lived like this for 15 years, and if there are no accidents, this situation will continue until he dies. Ha 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 ha. Hirata's eyes widened, and a strange smile appeared on his face. He leaned closer to the mirror and said, "That idiot deserves it." No, in reality, Shioi's choice can't be said to be right or wrong, it can only be said that good people don't have good karma, Fong Bujua said, but if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Then what do you want? Mr. F? Hirata asked with a cold smile. Do you think you can change the past? No, but I can bring you and him relief, Fong Bujua replied. Release? Humph. What a joke. He's the one being tortured. I don't need anything. I have 3 layers of consciousness here, and the one that Shuichi has experienced the most over the years is the deepest and scariest layer. Fong Bujua cut him off. I don't know how many layers there are on your side, but based on your mental state, I believe there should be only 1 layer. For 15 years, no, for 21 years, you've been experiencing some kind of scary memory similar to Shuichi's deepest layer of consciousness. Am I right? I have no idea what you're talking about. Hirata's eyes were darting around, and his tone was obviously lying. My consciousness was not created by this body. It is very convenient for me to move around in these layers of mental prison. The more I know, the higher the layer I can go to. Now I can take over Hirata's body in the real world, and similarly, I can go to your side and toss you to anywhere, Fong Bujua said darkly. That's impossible, Hirata roared. You, before he could finish, the mirror shattered, Fong Bujua stood up. His handcuffs and ankles had all disappeared, and the outfit that he was wearing had returned to the purple suit. He touched his pocket, and the key was indeed there. Of the 3 keys, there was only one that had not been used. He walked to the door of the sickroom, aimed at the lock, and opened the last door, the door that represented the mental prison. Outside the door, white light poured into the room and swallowed Fong Bujua. The next second, the scenery changed again, but this time, under the control of his own consciousness, he entered that unknown world, Hirata's world. Hirata-kun, is this real? A beautiful woman appeared before him. She looked to be in her 20s, and she wore a down jacket. She stood before him. Fong Bujua stood before her in his clown costume. It was quite strange, but in this NPC's eyes, she should be looking at Hirata Shuichi. The two were standing on a pedestrian bridge. According to legend, this was the place where confessions, breakups, suicides, and other dangerous activities were common. The street under the bridge showed that they were on the streets of a large city. Even though it was already midnight, in the city filled with skyscrapers, it was still a scene of debauchery. What are you talking about? Fong Bujua asked tentatively. Hirata-kun, you just said, after graduation, you're going back home to marry Sato. When the girl asked that question, there were tears in her eyes. Sato? Then this woman is Miko, right? Shuichi chose Haruko and Hirata. Fong Bujua said. All these years, Hirata has been reliving the scene where he broke up with Miko every day. That was Shuichi's choice, but it is also his memory. He has seen the person he loves cry and leave him, but he is unable to change anything. The fate that he has missed reappears again and again, and that is one of the most painful tortures. He tried to move his body. He could even take out the wrench or the gun, but that did not seem to be the right thing to do. It looked like this place was similar to the black and white world. The deeper one went into the mental world, the greater the freedom. However, in the mental world, one's body would be restricted. Ha! Fong Bujua smiled and shook his head. He walked forward with a swagger until he reached the girl. Then, he pulled Miko into his arms. Of course, he was a gentleman and did not kiss her. I will not leave you in my life. I love you. He said his lines in a solemn tone. Words that he hadn't said in real life could be considered as satisfying his mouth craving in the game. Since he was saying it on behalf of Hirata-kun, he could say it. Actually, Fong Bujua had once been asked by his girlfriend to say those words, and he had replied, "A man will only say, 'I love you' once in his life. When you are about to die, I will say it." Ever since then, there had not been a single girl who was dumb enough to want to be in a relationship with him. He was one of the luckiest people in the world. Current quest completed. All main quests completed. The system announcement came at the right time. Fong Bujua opened the game menu and saw that the 3 unfinished main quests, stay in the house until dawn, explore the mansion, and work until it's time to get off work, were not ticked on the right side. Instead, they were crossed off by several horizontal lines. A new quest appeared. The empty spot seemed to indicate that this quest had been there since the beginning, but he had not been able to see it. Fix Hirata's mental world. As soon as the voice notification sounded, the mission was displayed and a tick was placed on the right side of the mission. Theoretically speaking, Fong Bujua should have heard the teleportation announcement, but strangely enough, he did not hear it. Instead, he returned to the first-person perspective of the cinematic. Oh? Does this scenario have an ending cinematic? Fong Bujua asked. Ha! Not bad. This is more interesting than those that you have to fight. You will be automatically teleported after watching the ending. That was the system's reminder. The scene before his eyes slowly changed. It was a cloudy afternoon, and he was walking down a street that looked rather familiar. Everything around him was colored, which meant that he should be in the real world of this scenario. Feng Bujue soon recognized that this was one of the streets that he had taken when he first entered the scenario. The camera turned, and two figures walked over from afar. It was a man and a woman. The man looked cultured and was wearing a well-fitting suit. The woman was elegant and had an air of elegance about her. She wore a dark-colored jacket. Feng Bujue recognized them as well. They were Hirata Shuichi, who looked to be in his 20s, and Miko, who he had seen earlier. Their conversation gradually sounded in his ears. "We're almost there, right? Hirata-kun." We still need to walk for a while, but we'll be there soon. The traffic in your hometown sure is inconvenient. Yes, haha. It's a very old-fashioned place. Hirata scratched his head. You took the tram to come so far, and you still have to walk. That must be hard on you, Miko. Miko shook her head. No, when I'm with Hirata-kun, it's easier to walk. She lowered her head shyly. Feng Bujue grumbled with annoyance. Hey, what is this? Is this the plot after I've changed the timeline? I typed good end, just to see this kind of stun grenade? Hirata, you'd better die. Oh, by the way, do you know? Not far ahead, there's an old longhouse. I remember when I was young, the old people told me that the place is haunted, Hirata said. Hey, why are you suddenly bringing that up? Are you trying to set up your own flag? Feng Bujue had a bad feeling about this. There are no ghosts in this world. They are just people's imagination, Miko said. Hirata laughed. Haha, you have a point. Right then, the camera panned to a panoramic view. In the gloomy sky, a flash of lightning cut across the sky. The second the white light flashed, Feng Bujue saw clearly that on a lamppost not far behind Hirata and Miko, there was a strange figure wearing a white kimono squatting. Chapter 122. This was the last scene that the scenario left for Feng Bujue. After reading it, he was teleported. When he returned to the login lobby, the screen showed him the result. The scenario has been completed. Calculating reward. Obtained EXP, 5,000. Game coins, 50,000 inch obtained equipment. None missions completed. 3/6 inch completed special and hidden missions. 0. Unlocked world building. None time of terror points increase. 0. Highest terror points. 0%. Average terror points. 0%. Your terror rating is Embodiment of Valor. Extra reward obtained. Please choose later. Obtain skill points. 500 additional bonus from skill points. EXP, 5,000. Game coins. 50,000 inch scenario cleared reward. Puzzle card X2 calculation complete. Please continue. Hey, what kind of scam is this? After Feng Bujue was teleported, he did not pay much attention to the result on screen. Instead, he could not help but yell. This ending might as well have a caption that says Hirata Shuichi died peacefully in prison. This sort of standard horror movie ending scene is too depressing. Based on normal logic, wouldn't the ending be? Hirata, who just graduated from university, returned home to get married with Miko, and then they were both killed by ghosts? Are you kidding me? He huffed and puffed at the screen. He had cleared the scenario, but he did not feel relieved at all. He did not feel the sense of accomplishment from clearing the nightmare scenario. If anything, he felt quite depressed. But Feng Bujue was, after all, Feng Bujue. He soon calmed down. As a young man who could withstand storms and setbacks, it was perfectly acceptable for him to occasionally play 1 or 2 games that caused him to feel depressed. He imagined himself as a speck of dust in the mortal world. He inhaled deeply and exhaled deeply, sigh. I have to look at things on the bright side. This is a solo survival mode on nightmare difficulty, and the bonus EXP and game coins are the standard for a team survival mode, he thought. Plus, I can draw more equipment. I'd better forget about that horrible ending. Actually, looking at the whole scenario, Feng Bujue was quite lucky to be able to clear the scenario. The scenario was filled with instant death flags, meaning that it was over once triggered. The black and white world earlier in the scenario was a test of the player's terror point. Even though Feng Bujue had lost his sense of fear, as someone who had experienced normal fear for the past 23 years, he knew very well how scary those things were. It was just that he had not reacted to them. If it were any other player, they might have made the wrong choice out of fear. Since the scenario generated by the system was based on the player's characteristics, other than the newbie training, whenever Feng Bujue entered solo survival mode, he would run into a decryption scenario. Accompanied by a sense of urgency and terror, there was almost no chance for a fair fight. Death flags that would kill him with one shot were everywhere. It did not take long for Feng Bujue to realize that the idea of using his terror points to grind for EXP through solo mode was not as simple as it seemed. To gain EXP, clearing the scenario was the prerequisite. If he died in solo mode, he would not get any EXP. However, if he spent the same amount of time in a team scenario, even if he was killed midway, as long as his teammates cleared the scenario in the end, he would at least gain EXP that was proportional to his contribution. Comparing the two, it was clear that team mode was the better option. This was because in team mode there was a higher margin for error. For example, in the scenario on Hunter's Island, there were 5 players. One had died and the other had died, but in the end they still cleared the scenario. The familiar white light gathered, and 2 cards appeared inside the glass tube. The puzzle cards only had a name and did not have a detailed description of the item. Feng Bujue held the 2 cards in his hand. They were puzzle card, sunglasses and puzzle card, spin. Basically, they had nothing to do with each other. If they were combined with the puzzle card, monkey that he already had, it would be the image that appeared in Feng Bujue's mind was a monkey wearing sunglasses, standing on one leg and spinning on the spot. That should be impossible, he thought to himself. However, since the card system had been released, he decided to give it a try. He took out the puzzle card, monkey, from his storage and held it in his hand together with the 2 new cards. He opened the menu and selected the combination option. The system notification he got was unable to find a logical sequence. In other words, if 2 or 3 of the 3 cards were placed together, they could not be considered a set. Therefore, Feng Bujue decided to store all 3 cards in his storage. After all, the 10 slots in his storage were empty. After all, a set of cards can be exchanged for excellent quality and above equipment with a 100% chance of success. Feng Bujue thought to himself. He had searched for a set of cards at the market's auction house, but he had not found any. Perhaps it was because the open beta had just started and the puzzle cards were rare to begin with. Or perhaps the players were wary of this and thought that the puzzle cards were one of the most effective ways to obtain perfect quality equipment, so it was not worth it to sell them. Another possibility was, as long as it was a puzzle card, it would be sold out the moment it was put up for auction. That was why Feng Bujue did not see it when he visited the auction house. In any case, Feng Bujue would not sell the puzzle cards so easily. The main reason was that he thought the card system was quite interesting, and he wanted to come up with a series to take a look. Fine, I don't believe that I'll be able to draw something like a baseball bat twice in a row. He walked to the other glass column with murderous intent. Before the system notification even finished, he had already chosen the equipment reward. This time, the thing that was formed by the white light was definitely not a baseball bat or a rock. However, looking at the outline of the equipment, Feng Bujue had a bad feeling. Name: Stool of the 18 Bronze Statues, number 5. Item type: Weapon quality: Poor offense points. Relatively weak element: None. Special effect: When attacking a humanoid creature, it will not be damaged and there is a certain chance of inflicting bleeding on the target. Remark: the stool can be hidden in a civilian's home. You can also sit on it to hide your killing intent. Since it is not considered a weapon, even if you are apprehended by the police, they will not be able to sue you. It is known as the best of the 7 weapons in the market. The stool's surface was round and there was a ladder-shaped support at the bottom. It was made of iron and was black in color. Its appearance did fit the description of poor in the game description. It was old and flawed, but it was better than nothing. Chapter 123. Since the social tab showed that Xiao Tan's group was still in-game, Feng Bujue went to visit the thriller box again. Compared to that afternoon, the number of items had tripled, and the number was still increasing. This time, even if he only looked at the names, he would not be able to go through them all. He could only use a vague search function to browse. Without realizing it, an hour had passed. When Feng Bujue returned to the login lobby to check his friend tab, he saw that Xiao Tan's group's status had turned to idle. The 3 of them had left the scenario at the same time, so there were only 2 possibilities. One was that all 3 of them had died at the same time, and the other was that they had been teleported out of the scenario after clearing the scenario. Feng Bujue believed that the second possibility was more likely, mainly because he had confidence in the combat ability of the 2 ladies. He did not ask for a communication request but directly invited the 3 into his meeting room. After Xiao Tan received the message, he invited Feng Bujue to join the team and handed over the team leader's authority to him. Passing Rain was the first to walk in. She looked at Feng Bujue's expression, and driven by her instinct, she asked a sharp question. "Did you lose the killing game?" "I suppose you can say that," Feng Bujue replied. Right then, the door opened for the second time, and Laughing Soul walked in to overhear their conversation. She interrupted with a smile. "Leader, a loss is a loss. What does I suppose you can say that mean? Let's not talk about it." Feng Bujue felt like that was the only answer he could give. After the door closed, it opened again, and Xiao Tan walked in. He was holding snacks in his hands, and he mumbled, "Yo, brother Bujue, are you trying to copy Joker with this look?" "Yes, I did it myself," Feng Bujue replied with pride. "That's not a good taste." Passing Rain's comment splashed a bucket of cold water on his enthusiasm. Feng Bujue immediately pretended to be serious and changed the topic. "About that, other than the killing mode, I've also checked out the solo survival mode on nightmare mode. In the end, you still couldn't clear the level, right?" Laughing Soul asked with a wicked smile. "I did clear the level." Feng Bujue's expression was solemn. "But the feeling after clearing the level, how should I put it? I might as well have died halfway." "Then it's because of the plot." Passing Rain keenly sensed something. Anyway, I personally don't recommend you guys, especially Xiao Tan, to play that kind of game," Feng Bujue said. "I wouldn't go even if you asked me to. I don't really dare to play a single-player mode that isn't Nightmare," Xiao Tan replied. Laughing Soul narrowed her eyes and used a condescending gaze to look at him. "When we were playing team mode, didn't you make a fuss about it?" "Because we are from the same guild, you embarrassed me as well." "Never mind, you'll get used to it after some time. Since Xiao Tan didn't disconnect from the game and survived until the end, then you should admit that he is quite capable," Feng Bujue said. You used a tone that sounded like you were trying to help me, and you said something like that? You sure have guts." Xiao Tan sadly swallowed another mouthful of snacks. Feng Bujue ignored him and got down to business. "Fine, let's talk about the next round. Considering that there are 4 of us, if we want to play the slaughter game together, it will be a 2v2 or a team survival mode. You haven't queued with us in team survival mode, right? Then we'll do it once," Passing Rain replied. "Agreed," Laughing Soul replied. "Seconded," Xiao Tan added. "Other than that, after this scenario is over, we girls will have to go offline," Passing Rain said. I understand. Sleeping in the gaming hub for too long is not good for the body. Feng Bujue smiled. He still remembered what Passing Rain said that afternoon. You've already logged in and cleared 2 long team scenarios, right? 1 more and you'll need to rest. Then, since we're already sitting in the conference room, we should get to know each other's status before we queue, Passing Rain said. You have a point. That way, we won't know our teammates' details after we enter the scenario. Feng Bujue nodded. Then we'll lose the point of teaming up. Like a demonstration, Passing Rain took the lead and said, I'm currently level 15, and my title has been updated to Elemental Swordsman. The title's ability is to passively increase the damage of weapons used against spiritual creatures. My highest mastery is Fighting D, and my weakest is Healing and Summoning. I haven't even unlocked them yet. My main weapon has just been changed, so this one should be able to last for quite some time. As she spoke, she projected an item from her bag onto the conference table in the form of a 3-dimensional projection. The data was clear at a glance. Name, Holy Seal item type, weapon quality, normal offense points, medium element, none special effect, increase sorcery recovery speed of wielder by 50%, equip requirement, Fighting D remark. This sword's true power has been sealed. When it has killed a certain number of evil spirits, the seal will be unlocked, and the sword will be able to unleash its full power. Oh, this is very powerful. It's not a sorcery weapon, but it's a piece of equipment that can grow, Feng Bujue said. Sorcery weapon? The other 3 looked at him curiously. Therefore, Feng Bujue projected his death poker on the table in the form of data and learned from Passing Rain to explain his situation. Now, I'll use God's perspective to list Feng Bujue's current status in detail. Title: Plot Explorer, EXP, 1100015000. Skill Points, 1,580 Game Coins, 204600. Mastery, General Ability D, Workmanship E, Sleuthing E, Fighting D. Bonus from Mask, Marksmanship D, Medic F, Sorcery F, Summoning NA. Inventory 710, Mario's Wrench, Eye of Hostility, M1911A1 Pistol, 2 bullets remaining, Echo Armor, Life Points Recovery Potion, X4, Knife, Flashlight Equipment, Jazz Dance, Casey Jones Mask, Death Poker, Inventory 310, Puzzle Card, Monkey Puzzle Card, Sunglasses Puzzle Card, Spin Skills, Hasty Repair Devilish Child's Lower Whip Kick Body Enhancement Technique Decisive Victory. After listening to Feng Bujue's introduction, the other 3 were shocked. Of course, he did not give a detailed description. He only copied Passing Rain's method and talked about his title, skills, highest mastery, and talents that had not been unlocked. Other than that, he showed off his death poker. However, based on that information, it was enough to determine that he was very strong. In reality, for a level 15 player, Passing Rain was already the highest level of a normal player. The only difference between her and a professional player was the time she spent online and the game's attitude. With the same level and equipment, Passing Rain's combat ability would not be weaker than Jiang Hu's Laughing Blade or Brahman's 4 Heavenly Kings. However, she had only reached level D in her fighting mastery, and she had not unlocked any sorcery weapons. For someone like Feng Bujue, other than summoning, he had unlocked all his masteries. Furthermore, he had 3 level Ds and 2 level Es. Regardless of whether or not he had the bonus from his equipment, just based on his comprehensive stats, it was already something that others could only dream of. Of course, for Feng Bujue to reach his current level of mastery, there were many hidden dangers. Compared to players who specialized in 1 or 2 masteries, his most obvious weakness was his lack of practical combat experience. This could be seen from his battle with Blade Runner. Furthermore, until now, he did not have a combat skill that could be used as a main force. Body Enhancement spell only increased his physical fitness. For a player like him who did not know anything about fighting, it was like adding gasoline to a tractor. Actually, it was more appropriate to add some diesel. The player's personal ability and the character's ability were two different concepts. If Feng Bujue's title ability, a strategic victory, was his signature skill, then in reality, he was just a player who specialized in solving puzzles with a very high level of mastery. Brother Bujue, this weapon is invincible. How did you get it? Xiao Tan asked. I did a hidden mission in the killing game. Feng Bujue replied. Speaking of which, the result aside, the script was quite good. It borrowed the setting of Thunderbolt. As long as I created a suitable poem for myself, I would have completed the mission. Poem? You can even come up with something like that? Laughing Soul asked. What are you talking about? That's my profession. Feng Bujue said. Speaking of which, it's rare for you two to have such Thunderbolt IDs. Do you want me to help you come up with two more? That's not necessary. Thank you, but there's no need. The two girls rejected him instantly. Okay, Feng Bujue said awkwardly. Then let's continue. Xiao Tan, tell us about your combat ability. Xiao Tan popped a chip into his mouth and sucked on his fingers. From his expression, he looked like he was in deep thought, but at the same time, he did not even know his own status and was sneaking glances at the game menu. A few seconds later, he said, I'm also level 15 now. I've finally changed my title from Panicked Ambusher to Nervous Fighter. I feel a little better now. The ability of the title is an active skill called Bee's Sting. It can cause enemies to bleed. My highest mastery is level D in fighting, but I haven't unlocked my sorcery and summoning mastery. General ability and shooting are both level E, and the other three are all level F. My main weapon is store-bought, a normal quality Damascus dagger. I've sold my original kitchen knife. I still haven't used the slow sand. Oh, by the way, Brother Jew, I still have your Winchester shotgun. I forgot to return it to you earlier. Feng Bujue waved his hand and said, You should keep that gun. I have plenty of weapons now. At this point, he stood up and picked up the stool that he had been sitting on earlier. Due to the blocking of the meeting table, it was not until then that the group realized that Feng Bujue had not taken the chair that came with the meeting but had been sitting on a stool. Seeing everyone's reaction, I'm relieved, Feng Bujue said as he placed the stool into his inventory. It took up the 8th slot of his inventory. Hey, is that a weapon? Xiao Tan asked. Yes, and after the experiment earlier, I'm very sure. Feng Bujue said, This thing can really be used to hide danger. Don't tell me you're planning to use this to ambush others in the killing game. Laughing Soul soon saw through his intention. Of course. I wish you success, Feng Bujue shrugged and turned to Xiao Tan. Back to the topic, can you tell us more about your skill, Bee's Sting? Name, Bee's Sting special skill type, active consumption, 7% of maximum stamina points effect. Can be activated the moment the attack hits the target. The target will suffer the lightest bleeding effect for 2 minutes. The effect can be stacked up to 10 times. No matter the number of stacks, the duration will start from the last activation. No cooldown. Requires a sharp weapon that can cut through the target's skin to activate. Can only be used on one target at a time. Remark: if you don't have the advantage in terms of strength, you can try a battle of attrition. Xiao Tan gave a brief description of the skill, and Feng Bujue nodded. Not bad. Combined with stamina points recovery potions, you might be able to wear down a very strong player. Player? Xiao Tan smiled. It's already good that I can use this to deal with those bulky boss-level monsters. If I'm fighting a player, they will use medicine or bandages, right? No, the disgusting nature of your skill is perfect for dealing with players. Feng Bujue shook his head. You'll bleed if you come into contact with it, and you can use it again and again without any cooldown. With full stamina points, you can inflict more than 10 bleeding effect. The duration of the skill is awkward, and the loss of HP is not painful. If you leave it alone, it will stack, and if you leave it alone, you'll need to use bandages. When the time comes, your opponent will be troubled by this endless bee's sting. It's too wasteful to use bandages when the effect is light, but when the effect is severe, you'll need to use more health potions. Passing Rain obviously agreed with Feng Bujue, and she added, "As for what you said about wearing down a bulky boss, you're overthinking it." Xiao Tan was confused. Why? Feng Bujue sighed. If there really is a boss like that, its recovery ability will be enough to negate the effect of your skill. That's a simple logic. Agile monsters are more fragile, and slow monsters have amazing damage or defense. Xiao Tan said, I see. But to be honest, I really don't want to fight a player. It doesn't suit me. Alright, they're just talking about your skill, Laughing Soul said. Then she turned around and said, "It's my turn, right? My level is slightly lower, level 14. My title hasn't changed, and it's still Smart Gunner. My title's ability is passive, but it has nothing to do with combat. The effect is that I can store 3 different weapon magazines in one slot of my inventory. My best mastery is marksmanship, D level. Other than summoning, I've unlocked all my other masteries, but they're not as good as the leaders. My general ability, workmanship, and sleuthing are all E level, and the other 3 are F level. As for weapons, I don't have a specific main weapon, but I have 3 guns that I usually use." Feng Bujue thought about it and said, I have a rough idea of the team's configuration. Then, let's prepare to depart. Chapter 124. Feng Bujue, Level 15, Wang Tanji, Level 15, Like Rain, Level 15, Laughing Soul, Level 14. Please select the game mode that your team wishes to join. You have selected Team Survival Mode, Normal. Please confirm. Confirmed. The number of team members has been randomized, 4. Your team has joined the queue. Matching complete. Coordinating nerve connection. Generating scenario, downloading. Please wait a moment. It looked like their team of 4 was very lucky to have been randomly assigned a 4-man scenario. However, something strange happened during the scenario generation stage. The greeting of Welcome to Thriller Paradise did not appear. Furthermore, the 4 of them were not transported out like a normal team survival mode and were given a first-person view of the opening cinematic. They only felt the elevator move a certain distance before they heard the system announcement for the next step. Download complete. You are currently in Team Survival Mode, Normal. A scenario introduction is provided in this mode, and there is a chance of triggering hidden side missions and special world building. Reward for clearing the scenario: randomly draw a learnable skill card. Playing the scenario introduction soon. The game will start immediately after that. The next second, nothing happened. There was no introduction. What's going on? The 4 of them were pondering the same question in their respective elevators. Suddenly, they felt the ground beneath their feet disappear, and they started to fall. The floor of the elevator opened without warning, and no one was able to react to this sudden change. Thankfully, this was not a kill when the door opened setting. The players only fell about 2 meters and landed on a slide. An invisible force tugged at their bodies, causing them to slide forward along the slippery path beneath them. The design of the slide was similar to the one at the water park, but there was no water. Instead, it relied on gravity and repulsion to move the objects on the slide, and they moved very fast. The 4 of them were moving forward involuntarily in the dark. They had no idea where their teammates were, and they could not see anything. They merely moved down their own path at high speed. It didn't take long for this inexplicable beginning to end. They reached the end of their respective slides one after another. Feng Bujue was pulled by the invisible force and slammed into a chair with a large back. Then the chair started to spin on its own. When it finally stopped spinning, Feng Bujue found himself in a space that appeared to be quite spacious. The surrounding light was very dim, and he could not see too far. He could only vaguely see the scenery within 10 meters. Looking around, Feng Bujue realized that Xiao Tan, Passing Rain, and Laughing Soul were sitting on the same chairs as him. Each of them had a tall control panel in front of them, and the four of them each took one side. In the middle was a circular empty space about 10 meters in diameter. The floor was made from large tiles, and the tiles had a black and white pattern that looked like a chessboard. Just as they were confused, a deep and powerful voice suddenly rang out from the darkness. "Ladies and gentlemen, and the audience regardless of gender, welcome to the live broadcast of Death Quiz. Let us welcome the host, Mr. Yu." A cylindrical light pierced through the dark environment and projected onto a path that connected to the circular stage in the middle. At the end of the path was a large skeletal door. Then, the door opened and a large amount of white fog leaked out. It was unclear whether it was dry ice or real fog. In the next second, dozens of dazzling colored lights swept past. Accompanied by Jiangnan-style music, a fat man jumped out of the door while dancing on horseback, and in the surrounding darkness, there was also a clamor of cheers. This Mr. Yu was bald. He wore a tailcoat that was tailor-made for him. He wore a pair of small round sunglasses, and a tall black top hat sat on his bald head. His face was charmingly naive, and although he was fat, he appeared very agile when he jumped. He moved to the center of the stage like a large penguin, and at the moment the music came to an abrupt end, he even struck a pose that imitated the ending pose of the sculpture, the thinker. "Hey, what is this? Does this mean that the horse dance will last for another 30 years? Feng Bujue asked. "Welcome, everyone. This is..." Mr. Yu raised the microphone in his hand high into the air. At that moment, the lights around them came on, and Feng Bujue could finally see everything clearly. The space looked like a recording set for a large variety show. The ceiling was filled with lights, and there were cables that connected to sound systems everywhere. The four players were seated facing the circular stage in the middle. The control panel before them had a flexible microphone, a button the size of a coaster, and four small buttons that represented A, B, C, and D respectively. There was also a screen. Behind them, in other words, on the spectator stands, were thousands of demons and ghosts. There were almost all kinds of things: ghosts, demons, half-beastmen, fairies, vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein monsters, and so on. In this place, humans were perhaps the only ones who were considered as the outliers. Die. Answer. Without the direction of a live director, the audience still responded to the host's interactive questions enthusiastically and loudly. "Hew, hew, hew." Mr. Yu laughed in the style of Coach and Sai. Then he snapped his fingers, and a staff appeared in his hand out of thin air. Mr. Yu held the microphone in one hand and raised the staff in the other. "Then, let me introduce the four contestants who are here today." He twirled the staff in his hand several times and then pointed it at Feng Bujue. "Number 1, Feng Bujue." He repeated the introduction. "Number 2, Wang Tongji. Number 3, Ruoyu Ruoli. Number 4, Laughing Soul. And the prize for today's winner is..." Mr. Yu used his hand that held the microphone to take out a white plastic medicine bottle from his pocket. There was no label or words on the bottle. A bottle of SCP-500, the panacea, containing 20 pills. He raised the bottle to show it, and then like magic, the bottle disappeared. Of course, if they all die in the game, the prize will be carried over to the next episode. Feng Bujue did not stay idle during this period. He used a strategic victory to see who the boss of the scenario was, and what he saw was the fat host's data. The skills data was as follows. Name, Mr. Urace. Demigod level, out of measurable height, 160 centimeters weight, 103 kilograms combat style. Weakness? Own skill? Danger level, extremely lethal. Right then, Mr. Yu said, All right, let us listen to each contestant's pre-match declaration. First, number 1, Mr. Crazy. I think it's best if we play according to the rules of this game, Fong Bujua said as he winked at his teammates. Since they had gotten to know each other before entering the scenario, the other three naturally knew what Fong Bujua's title skill was. When they heard that, they understood. Do not resist. If you disobeyed the rules of this scenario, you would die. Actually, even if Fong Bujua did not say that, they would not have acted so rashly. Even though they did not know how powerful this kind fatty before them was, they had to be careful of the power of the audience around them. With so many powerful monsters, any one of them could easily wipe out all four of them. It sounds like a meaningless statement, Mr. Yu said with a laugh. Mr. Yu laughed, and the audience laughed as well. Then he pointed at Xiao Tan and said, "Participant number 2. Me?" Xiao Tan was startled. Is it possible for me to quit now? Good question. The answer is. Mr. Yu paused and said with a smile, no. The audience laughed again, and Xiao Tan's lips twitched as he laughed drily. Then, contestant number 3, Mr. Yu said to Passing Rain. I have nothing in particular to say, Passing Rain replied coldly. This pretty lady is very cool. Mr. Yu shrugged. Then he turned to Laughing Soul. Contestant number 4. Do you mind if I ask what the prize is? Laughing Soul was very pragmatic at a time like this. Mr. Yu raised his brow and showed her a friendly and trustworthy expression. It is guaranteed to cure all diseases. Oh, then do you mind if I ask one more question? Laughing Soul wanted to ask more, but she was interrupted by Mr. Yu. All right, everyone, before the first round starts, let us introduce our 3 special guests today. Mr. Yu pointed at the row of seats at the front of the stage, and the light shone there. Sitting on the leftmost row was a blonde Caucasian woman. She was wearing a black suit, and her arms were crossed before her voluptuous chest. She looked about 30 and was quite pretty, but the expression on her face was filled with condescension and condescension. The first is Miss Pride from the 7 Deadly Sins, Mr. Yu introduced. Humph! When the camera focused on her, Pride only scoffed and turned her head away. However, the audience's response was enthusiastic. Cheers and whistles rose and fell. Sitting next to Pride was a young man who looked about 20. He was also wearing a black suit. He had a ponytail and his face was bloodless. His eyes were unfocused, and he was practically lying on his seat. The second is young Master Pestilence, one of the 4 horsemen, Mr. Yu said. The light shone on Pestilence. He used his hands to shield his eyes as if the light could harm his weak body. He coughed twice and said, "Cough, cough. I don't think I'm feeling so well." "That's what you say every time I see you." "It's fine. You're much better than Mr. Kidney Deficiency," Mr. Yu said. Another burst of laughter came from the audience. The light shone on the last guest. Sitting there was a middle-aged man. His face was resolute and his eyes were bright. He was wearing a short-sleeved shirt and jeans. The muscles on his arms were as clear as a sculpture. Next is the third guest, the god of fire, Mr. Hephaestus, Mr. Yu added. He is also the sponsor of the prize for this week's episode. Actually, I'm here because I'm bored facing the group of Cyclopes at the mining area, Hephaestus said. There was sporadic applause from the audience, but some of them were Cyclopes, and they used boos to express their dissatisfaction. All right, everyone, our show is about to officially begin. Mr. Yu suddenly teleported to stand before a camera. The camera zoomed in on his face, and he spoke at an incredible speed into the camera. This show is sponsored exclusively by ThrillerBox. If you send a message to participate in the quiz, you will have a chance to win a beautiful gift of 1,000 ghost coins provided by ThrillerBox. You can also log into the website at the bottom of the screen to participate in our livestream. To make a trade, come to ThrillerBox. To win a prize, watch Death Quiz. Thank you for your continued support. No wonder the scenario doesn't have an introduction and doesn't say "Welcome to Thriller Paradise." Feng Bujue ignored Fatty Yu, who was busy advertising, and thought to himself, "So, there will be a host to explain the rules." Feng Bujue studied the group of monsters around him. None of them looked like they were easy to deal with, and that Mr. Yu probably had the power to kill him in 1 second. It looked like the chance of fighting in this scenario was very low. There was no freedom to speak of under these conditions. Currently, it was still unclear what the rules of this death quiz were, but from the name and what Mr. Yu said, there was a chance of dying in the process, but to clear the scenario, the only way was to participate to the end. First, the first round, a compulsory question. Mr. Yu tossed his staff into the air. With a bang, the staff disappeared without a trace. Then, he took out a stack of cards from his shirt pocket. The cards were about the size of envelopes, and they were hard. The back of each card had the logo of Death Quiz printed on it. Only the host could see the content on the front. The rules for this round are as follows. I will ask the 4 contestants questions according to their number. Each question will have 45 seconds to answer. 10 points will be awarded to those who answer correctly, and 10 points will be deducted from those who answer incorrectly or exceed the time limit. There will be 16 questions in total. The contestant with the lowest score at the end of this round will enter the Coliseum. After Mr. Yu finished reading the rules, he immediately turned to Feng Bujue. Then, please listen to the first question. Feng Bujue did not have time to figure out the meaning of this Coliseum. He had to focus on the question. This is a history question. Mr. Yu's tone was steady, and he had a good grasp of the rhythm. May I ask? Chapter 125. Even though Mr. Yu said go ahead, he did not ask the question immediately. Instead, he smiled at Feng Bujue and said, "The first question is relatively easy, so there's no need to be nervous." Did I say that I'm nervous? History is my specialty, Feng Bujue replied calmly. Okay, the question is, Di Renjie. Once Mr. Yu said the name, Feng Bujue sighed in relief. He was worried that the question would be based on some kind of illusory worldview, like bringing up Li Yuanfang, but thankfully, the fatty mentioned a real historical figure. If that was the case, it meant that his knowledge could be put to good use. We are all familiar with Di Renjie. He was the prime minister during the Wu Zhou dynasty. According to rumors, he was very good at solving cases. Mr. Yu started to ramble again. Why don't you finish the question? Feng Bujue roared. Haha. I'm sorry, Mr. Yu said. The question is, what is Di Renjie's zodiac sign? When Feng Bujue heard that, he was stunned. Xiao Tan and the rest wanted to help, but when they heard the question, they were all stunned. 45 seconds, start now, Mr. Yu said, and at the same time, the sound of ticking came from the speakers at the venue. What kind of history is this? It's a math test, isn't it? Feng Bujue mumbled softly. Thankfully, Di Renjie's birth and death years are all round numbers, so it's easy to remember. 630 to 700, and this year 2055 is the year of the pig. 30 seconds left, Mr. Yu reminded, but his expression was relaxed. His zodiac sign is a tiger. Feng Bujue was unmoved. Without hesitation, he gave the answer quickly. Correct, Mr. Yu said. The audience clapped. Mr. Yu waved his hand, and the first question card was burned away by the fire. The second question. Mr. Yu turned to Xiao Tan. Participant number 2, you look so nervous. That was the first question really easy? Xiao Tan's face turned pale. Haha. Of course, Mr. Yu said with a smile. All right, please pay attention to the question. This is a question about sports. He looked at the card and read, please name any 3 players who have won the World Snooker Championship. He looked up at Xiao Tan. The time starts. Must I ask for the full name? Xiao Tan asked. Yes. Mr. Yu replied. Please note that you cannot get the answer wrong. If you get one wrong, you will get all the answers wrong. Other than that, please hurry. Joe Davis. Xiao Tan named the one he was most confident about. Correct 1, Mr. Yu said. Stephen Henley. Correct 2, Mr. Yu reminded. 30 seconds left. Ding Junhui. Xiao Tan answered immediately. Mr. Yu was silent for 2 seconds. You are absolutely correct. Phew. Xiao Tan slumped over the control panel. There was a round of encouraging applause. Haha. That's why I said there's no need to be nervous. This question is super easy, Mr. Yu said. It's practically common sense. He moved the microphone away, cleared his throat, and then turned to Passing Rain. Participant number 3, please listen to the third question. After burning the second card, Mr. Yu looked at the third card and told Passing Rain, "This is a brain teaser." Passing Rain did not show any expression, but Feng Bujue, who sat across from her, had a face that said, "This is a free point." Excuse me, a chicken and a goose are placed inside a fridge. The chicken freezes to death, but the goose survives. Why is that? Mr. Yu asked. The time starts now. Because the chicken is excited? Passing Rain answered immediately. Unfortunately, wrong answer. Mr. Yu smiled. The correct answer is because it's a penguin. The audience sighed, and the score displayed on the outside of Passing Rain's console immediately became -10 points. Mr. Yu looked at the camera and commented, "The answer given by participant number 3 sounds like the answer of a cold joke, but unfortunately, this is a brain teaser." TSK. So the answer is your own kind. Passing Rain scoffed coldly. The audience erupted in laughter. Mr. Yu took out his handkerchief and wiped away his sweat awkwardly. He turned around to face Laughing Soul and placed the fourth card before his eyes. Okay, participant number 4, please listen to the fourth question. This kind of difficulty is a piece of cake. Ask away, Laughing Soul said eagerly. This is a question about a game, Mr. Yu said. I'm sorry, but who are the commonly known trio of the grass? The time starts now. Laughing Soul blinked her large eyes and her face was blank. Passing Rain could not help her, but Feng Bujue and Wang Tongji kept gesturing and mouthing the names of the three. Haha, hints are not allowed, Mr. Yu said. Mr. Yu said, if you really did tell her the answer, then you would have gotten the question wrong. Oh, I know, a three-man team, right? A second ago, Laughing Soul had been pouting like she was at a loss of what to do, but the next second she suddenly smiled. To everyone's surprise, her answer was, it's Luffy, Ace and Sabo. Bang, bang. It was the sound of Brother Ju and Xiao Tan's faces hitting the control panel. The audience's glasses were all smashed to the ground. Wrong answer, Mr. Yu said. But this question might be a blind spot for the female participant. Therefore, Laughing Soul's score dropped to -10. Alright, after the first 4 questions, let's take a look at the score, Mr. Yu said. Both male participants have +10 points, but both female participants have -10 points. He lifted his head. Let us invite our 3 guests to give their comments. The light and camera focused on the VIP section. Pride Queen turned her head to the side and scoffed. She looked like she could not be bothered to talk to Mr. Yu. Mr. Pestilence coughed and said, I think if we swap the questions of the male and female participants, perhaps they will both get positive points. Hephaestus mumbled to himself, if we put the Cyclops inside the fridge, the light returned to Mr. Yu. He shrugged helplessly and continued. Fine, thank you for your comments. Now, he turned to Feng Bujue. The difficulty of the questions will increase. Feng Bujue nodded. How come I feel like my question is the most difficult in the first round? Feng Bujue complained expressionlessly. Mr. Yu ignored him and said, from this question onward, I will not give you the type of question. Please listen to the question. He held the card and read aloud, Excuse me, What is the 9th decimal point of pi, which is pi? The countdown starts now. 3. Fong Bujue used 1 second to answer. Is that a wild guess? Mr. Yu asked. No, Fong Bujue answered. Very good, you got it right, Mr. Yu said. There was a round of applause from the audience, and Fong Bujue's score reached 20 points. A normal person will only remember 7 decimal places. Looks like the crazy contestant has memorized more, Mr. Yu said. It's okay. Fong Bujue was being humble. Actually, he had memorized 200 decimal places. He treated pi as a password library. He could pick a 6-digit, 8-digit, or even 10-digit number from the 200, and they could be used as a password. Looks like contestant number 1 is getting further and further away from the Colosseum. Mr. Yu looked at Xiao Tan with a wicked smile. Contestant number 2, please listen carefully. When Xiao Tan heard the increased difficulty, he was nervous. His expression was like a primary school student waiting in line for an injection. The question is, how old is a girl when she is of marriageable age? The countdown starts now. After Mr. Yu said that, he immediately turned to look at Fong Bujue. Do not try to use gestures or lips to remind me, or else contestant Wang's score will be deducted. Oh no. I don't know. Xiao Tan glanced at his brother Ju, and the latter shot him a condescending look. Xiao Tan thought, are you serious? It's normal not to know something like this. Why do you act like this is common knowledge? You have 30 seconds left, Mr. Yu reminded him. Xiao Tan felt like he would not be able to figure it out no matter how hard he tried, so he decided to make a random guess. 18. Wrong answer, Mr. Yu announced with a big smile. Your score will be reset to 0. The next question came to passing rain. Mr. Yu wiped his sweat and looked at the question card. Phew. Contestant number 3, how is it? Are you nervous? Passing rain did not answer. She mimicked pride and slowly turned her head to the side with a scoff. Mr. Yu looked like he had been dealt a heavy blow, but he had no choice but to continue. Okay, the 7th question. How many strings are there in the guzheng? The countdown starts now. 21. Passing rain answered very quickly. Correct, Mr. Yu said. He did not comment further lest he said something wrong again. The audience responded with applause, and then it was time for the 8th question, the last question of the second round. Contestant number 4, please listen carefully, Mr. Yu said. I'm sorry. What is the next line of the green hills are like waves crashing into Zhangzhou? The countdown starts now. 8 hills to the west of the Copper Sparrow Terrace, Laughing Soul said before he finished reading the question. Before the host announced the result, the audience was already clapping. Obviously, she was right. It looked like these questions about poetry were not only Fong Bujue's specialty. Correct. Mr. Yu smiled after he burned the question card. Our contestants this week are all very good. He smiled meaningfully. But, eventually, someone will enter the Colosseum. Hew. For this round, he did not have the guest comment anymore. Instead, he turned to Fong Bujue and asked the 9th question. Contestant number 1, please listen carefully. He looked at the question card. This is a special question. If you get it right, you'll get an extra 20 points, but if you get it wrong, 20 points will be deducted. You have to be careful. Chapter 126. Of course. Since this is a special question with double points, it will naturally be more difficult. Please listen carefully. Mr. Yu raised the question card. Green Lantern. I believe everyone knows about them. He glanced at the camera. The source of their green light energy is mental power. He lifted his head to look at Fong Bujue. In the DC universe, green light represents mental power, so, what do the other colors represent? Please name at least 4 of them, and the countdown starts now. This kind of question was not going to stump Fong Bujue. Even if he was not there to collect material for his writing, He had read many of them out of interest. Therefore, he only needed to think about it briefly before answering. I will explain it according to the color. Red light, anger; orange light, greed; yellow light, fear; green light, mental power; green light, sympathy; blue light, hope; purple light, love. The last one is black, which represents death. The room was silent. Mr. Yu looked at the answer in his hand and was silent for a few seconds. Then he suddenly said in a firm tone, "You are absolutely correct." The audience erupted into a wave of applause that was second only to the opening of the show. Participant number 1 is so knowledgeable. After 3 questions, he already has 40 points while the other 3 participants have 0 points after 2 laps. Participant number 1 is practically undefeatable, Mr. Yu explained. Mr. Yu explained. He turned around to look at the VIP section. What do the 3 guests think of participant number 1's performance? After the camera was aimed at the VIP section, Miss Pride spoke for the first time that day. She only said 2 words. Otaku. Then she turned her head away and scoffed. Pestilence slumped in his seat and used his bony hands to prop up his cheeks. The skin on his hands was so white that it was almost transparent. One could see the blood vessels under his skin. This posture made him look even more haggard. Speaking of which, why is there not a single color that represents pestilence? The cameraman, a translucent spirit, turned the camera to Hephaestus. The man's comment was still baffling. TSK. Isn't it just some lanterns and rings that collect wandering energy? If you want to mass-produce those things, you only need enough Cyclops workers. Alright, thank you for your comments. Before the man could finish, Mr. Yu cut in. He turned to Xiao Tan and said, Participant number 2, please listen to the 10th question. He burned the previous question card and said to the next one, please spell it accurately in English. Phenylketonuria. The countdown starts now. The ticking sound had just started when Mr. Yu turned around to interact with the audience. As we all know, in English, medical jargon is a very troublesome part. Those are long and hard to remember. Phenylketonuria, or PKU for short, Xiao Tan replied. Then, he spelled out the whole word letter by letter. Mr. Yu was startled for several seconds. He used his hand that held the microphone to push up the sunglasses that sat on his nose. He widened his beady eyes to confirm the answer on the question card. Correct. Xiao Tan's score was increased by 10 points, and the audience applauded. Looks like this question is related to participant number 2's field of expertise, or perhaps his English is exceptionally good? Mr. Yu commented. That is actually quite simple. Before Xiao Tan finished, Mr. Yu raised his voice to say, then, next, Mr. Yu turned to Passing Rain again. Participant number 3, now only you and participant number 4 have 0 points. This question is very important. Oh, Passing Rain answered matter-of-factly. From her attitude, it was as if she was saying, it is not that big of a deal. Please listen to the question. Mr. Yu took the new question card to his eyes. After glancing at it, he said, please tell me, what does the chemical formula that appears on the screen represent? The countdown starts now. As he said that, the small screen on Passing Rain's panel and the big screen in the hall showed the same chemical formula. C6H12O6. Glucose. Passing Rain thought for a moment before replying. Correct. Mr. Yu said. Another round of cheers came from the audience. Looks like all of our participants are very good. Will the suspense be left until the last lap? Or will it be ended with the next question? Mr. Yu turned to Laughing Soul. Hey! Are you trying to tell me that my score will be negative after I answer this question? Laughing Soul narrowed her eyes and glared at Mr. Yu. Even if I really get negative points, I still have a chance in the next lap, right? Haha. I said that because... Mr. Yu raised the next question card in his hand. This 12th question is another special question. There was an uproar in the audience. Please listen to the question. Mr. Yu read from the question card. Please name 3 players who have won the title of European Footballer of the Year in the 20th century. Their full names are not required, but the nationality of the 3 players cannot be repeated. The countdown starts now. Laughing Soul pouted again, and she looked like she was in a difficult spot. This question about sports might be very easy for the male participant. I believe if it was participant number 1 or participant number 2 who picked this question, these 20 points would have been given to them for free. Unfortunately, it is our female participant who has been asked this question, Mr. Yu said, and then reminded, you have 30 seconds left. Beckenbauer, Platini. Laughing Soul actually named 2 names. So far correct, Mr. Yu said. This is very interesting. The 2 names that participant number 4 mentioned were not only excellent players, they were both government officials in the past. Ronaldo. Laughing Soul said as if she was suddenly reminded of this name. Participant number 4, I have a question. Why would you think a Brazilian won the European Footballer of the Year award? Mr. Yu asked with a smile. Huh? Is he a Brazilian? Laughing Soul asked in return. Since you do not know him, why would you answer that name? Mr. Yu asked. Because I remember many soccer players with that name, so I thought perhaps one of them won the title of Mr. Yu, Laughing Soul answered. Mr. Yu nodded. Fine, no matter what, the answer to this question is correct. The audience clapped, and Laughing Soul's score shot up to 20. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the audience regardless of gender, Mr. Yu announced excitedly. This is the end of the first round. There are only 4 questions left. Let us take a look at the scores of the 4 participants. Participant number 1 is leading by a large margin with 40 points. Participant number 2 has 10 points, and he still looks quite nervous. The calm participant number 3 has 10 points as well. And participant number 4, with her lucky performance on the special question, currently has 20 points. The camera followed Mr. Yu's explanation and panned to the 4 participants one by one. Then, if there is no accident, the participant who will enter the Colosseum will be one of participants number 2, number 3, and number 4. Mr. Yu started to stir up the atmosphere and announced loudly, Now, please hold your breath and focus. We will enter the last 4 questions of the first round. He turned to Feng Bujue and picked up the question card. This question, he purposely paused, is not a special question. You mean it will not matter even if I get it wrong? Feng Bujue asked. That's right, but I have to remind you, at the end of every round, the player with the highest score will be given a mysterious advantage. Mr. Yu used the hand that held the card to make a 1 sign, and his tone was very suggestive. Advantage, huh? Feng Bujue said with some thought. In any case, you go first. Listen carefully, Mr. Yu said. The question is, there is a meaning in it and the will is immortal. Are you familiar with the wonder and power of the will? God is a great will, and with his single-mindedness, he blesses all things. If a mortal does not have a weak will, they will never submit to an angel or the god of death. He paused. Who said that? The countdown starts now. Humph. At the end of the day, this is the last round. This question is very cunning. Feng Bujue scoffed. From his attitude, he appeared to be confident. At the beginning of Lydia, the author used this quote from Joseph Granville to fit the central idea of the whole essay. Then your answer is Joseph. Mr. Yu was about to say. Feng Bujue interrupted him. But. He pointed at Mr. Yu with his finger. But the author of Lydia is Edgar Allan Poe. This drunkard cannot be trusted so easily. He smiled and said, Granville is a famous theist, and that's what Poe saw. In fact, the words just now were written by Poe himself. He made up these few lines, then put a dash and wrote Granville's name, making others think that he was quoting the works of his ancestors, but in fact, this is Poe's writing. Mr. Yu said, "So, your answer is?" "Without a doubt." Edgar Allan Poe, Feng Bujua said. "Absolutely correct." Mr. Yu waved his hand and burned the question card. The audience erupted in applause and cheers again. Phew! Mr. Yu sighed in relief. Participant number 1 has answered all 4 questions of the first round correctly, including a special question. So far, his 50 points are more than enough for him to clinch the first place. He turned to Xiao Tan. "Then, what will happen to participant number 2? Xiao Tan was already covered in cold sweat. He laughed drily. "Ha, ha, ha. I have already prepared myself to go to that Colosseum. Is that so?" "Hew, hew, hew." Mr. Yu laughed. "But the questions for the last round are indeed quite difficult, so please listen carefully." He looked at the question card and said, "We all know there is a fictional character called Kick-Ass. When he takes off his superhero costume, his identity is that of a student. If you don't mind, what is this student's name?" Mr. Yu put down the question card and looked at Xiao Tan. "The countdown starts now." When Xiao Tan heard the question, he was dumbfounded. He was a person who could not hide his thoughts. From the expression on his face, it was clear that he did not know the answer at all. Xiao Tan had watched the whole series of this movie more than once, but for some reason, he could not remember the main character's name. 30 seconds left. Mr. Yu reminded him as he turned to the audience. "Yes, I understand it from participant number 1's expression. He knows the answer, but unfortunately, this question will not be answered by him." The ticking continued, and Xiao Tan had no clue what was going on. 15 seconds left, Mr. Yu reported again. "Fine, I don't know." Xiao Tan could not stand the tense atmosphere anymore. He did not wait for the time to run out before giving up. The audience booed. Unfortunately, participant number 2's score has returned to 0. "Currently, he has the lowest score," Mr. Yu said. Then he walked to stand before Passing Rain's panel. "Participant number 3, as long as you answer this question correctly, you will be safe. As long as participant number 4 does not run into another special question, even if she gets it wrong, the result will not change. In other words, this 15th question will most likely decide the result of the first round." Passing Rain's reaction was similar to the previous round. Mr. Yu's lips twitched twice. He had been talking for a long time, but the girl was still unmoved. He had no choice but to pick up the question card and ask, "The legendary 10 Kings of Hell, which 3 kings are the 2nd, 5th, and 10th kings?" The countdown starts. Before the man finished, Passing Rain gave the answer. King Chujiang, King Yenluo, and King Chakra. Mr. Yu burned the question card. "Correct." The audience clapped. At the same time, the cameraman very cleverly aimed the camera at Xiao Tan, who was in the second seat, and the camera captured a sour expression on his face. Mr. Yu returned to the middle of the stage to face Laughing Soul. Looking at the last question card in his hand, he said, "This 16th question." He purposely paused for a whole 10 seconds. The man seemed to have to pause for every word that came out of his mouth. "Is another special question." The audience quieted down again. "Currently, participant number 4, Laughing Soul, has a score of 20, Mr. Yu said. If she answers this question incorrectly, her score will return to 0. His tone was slow and steady. "The suspense will be left until the last moment. Hey, Fatty, if both him and I return to 0, who will enter the Colosseum?" Laughing Soul suddenly asked. Fatty." Mr. Yu's face dimmed. "Fine, it sounds like she's calling me." He had no choice but to admit it. Other than him, there was only the cameraman in the middle of the stage. If the cameraman was placed on the scale, he would weigh about 21 grams. If there is a tie for first place, then there will be an extra question. Mr. Yu cleared his throat to hide his awkwardness. And if there is a tie for last place, then the two participants will enter the Colosseum together. Oh! Laughing Soul smiled wickedly. Then I will give up on this question. The audience gasped, and Mr. Yu merely smiled but did not say anything. On the other side, Feng Bujua looked at Laughing Soul and gave her a big thumbs up. 1. It was to praise her strategy, and 2. It was to praise her for her loyalty. Xiao Tan was moved to tears. No matter what the Colosseum was, with two people going together, he would feel much better. You gave up without even hearing the question. Looks like there is no need for me to ask for your confirmation. Mr. Yu smiled meaningfully. Then, let's go to the Colosseum. Once he said that, Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul's seats started to spin and sink. After they descended into the dark space below the floor, the two were once again pulled away from their original seats by an invisible force. They returned to the two slides and started to move at high speed toward an unknown territory. The scene on the big screen changed at the right time, and a vast desert appeared in the shot. Not long after that, on this vast desert, Xiao Tan fell from the sky and landed on his back. Several seconds later, Laughing Soul also fell from the sky. Her feet landed firmly on Xiao Tan's stomach, and she landed safely. Who will be the first executioner to appear at the Colosseum today? Mr. Yu said. Even though the four of us are not that high level, when life forms of any level struggle at the edge of death, the viewing experience is unparalleled. He used a high-pitched tone to stir up the emotions of the audience. Who or what will take on this bloody mission? He took a few steps closer and stared at the camera lens. The live music also became eerie and tense. Suddenly, Mr. Yu's expression shifted, and he said in a hurry, "Before that, those who are watching our show, please note that you can still use the interactive method at the bottom of the screen to send a message or log into our website to participate in the activity of guessing the final winner. You will have a chance to win a beautiful gift from Thriller Box worth 1,000 ghost coins. To make a trade, come to Thriller Box. To win a prize, watch Death Quiz. Thank you for your support." Hey! Why are you interrupting the commercial at such a crucial moment? Feng Bujua shouted. Haha! Looks like our participant number 1 is in too much of a hurry. Mr. Yu laughed. But before I announce the first executioner at the Colosseum, we will have our 3 guests give their comments on the contestants' performance in the first round and share their prediction of who the executioner will be. Once again, the camera panned to Pride. She arrogantly looked down at Fatty Yu from afar and said, "If I were to comment, would you be able to find a corner and commit suicide? Why would you make such a request? Has your contempt for me reached such a level?" Mr. Yu asked as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. I'm afraid that won't do. Humph. So, Pride stopped talking. Then, the camera panned to Hephaestus. It looked like the cameraman had seen through the plan and decided to have Pestilence, who was more reliable, speak last. Will the executioner be a Cyclops? Hephaestus's comment was as unreliable as ever. If it is, then go find a corner and commit suicide. Fatty Yu roared. Finally, the camera panned to Pestilence. He turned to Mr. Yu and slowly said, "The performance of the first round basically showed their respective expertise. It is worth mentioning that participant number 1 is very well-rounded. As for the executioner, there is nothing to predict. Cough cough. I am a knight. Naturally, I already know what is in that desert, so I will let you, the host, make the announcement." Chapter 127. Okay, thank you, young Master Pestilence, for your somewhat serious review, Mr. Yu said. He opened his palm and pointed at the screen. Now, let us reveal the answer. In the desert, Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul could not hear any sound from the set, and they did not see any cameras around them. How did the image get there? Only God knew. Just now, after the two of them moved forward on their respective slides for a while, their vision suddenly turned white. The glaring sunlight broke through the darkness, and the surrounding temperature suddenly rose. It was as if they had fallen out of a spatial crack in midair. This desert appeared to be very calm. At a glance, there was nothing but yellow sand. There were no cacti, no animal bones, no rocks, and no oasis. The strangest thing was that in such an open place, there was no wind, and the desert in front of him was completely flat. There wasn't even a slightly higher sand dune in his line of sight. This condition is perfect for shooting. Laughing Soul placed her hand before her forehead and looked around. Xiao Tan smiled awkwardly and thanked her. Thank you for coming to accompany me. It's fine. This is part of the strategy. Since the fighting part can be shared by many people, we should make use of the rules. Who told you to be so stupid and weak? Laughing Soul replied in a helpless tone. She raised her hand and reached her index finger into her collar to loosen it. She was wearing a full Special Forces outfit, so naturally she was feeling unbearably hot in this kind of temperature. Xiao Tan did not mind Laughing Soul's evaluation of him. He knew she meant no harm. By the way, in this environment, where will the enemy come from? He lifted his head. The sun was high in the sky and there were no clouds. The strong light made it hard for him to open his eyes. If it comes from the sky, will it be a monster like a giant black vulture? Based on what you said, if the monster comes from underground, it will be a giant bug. Laughing Soul asked. They had all guessed wrong. At that moment, on the set, Mr. Yu was at the reveal part. His next sentence was, he is from Cybertron. Sha. Mo. Lai. Tiger. A tsunami of cheers came from the audience. At the same time, Desert Tiger entered Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul's sight. He appeared in the distant horizon, approaching at an astonishing speed, leaving behind a trail of dust. When Desert Tiger appeared, its appearance was that of a giant mechanical tiger. Its metal body was covered in yellow and black tiger stripe. Although he hadn't gotten close, Xiao Tan had already visually estimated this monster from a distance, or rather, this transformer's body wasn't too big. It was estimated that it would only be 5 or 6 meters tall in its robot form. Bang! The gun was already fired. Xiao Tan turned his head to look and realized that Laughing Soul was already on the ground. Her sniper rifle was ready and the first bullet had been fired. In this windless, bright, and spacious gladiator arena, as a player who specialized in shooting, if he couldn't do something before the enemy got close to him, he would definitely fail. Even if he couldn't end the battle from a distance, he couldn't let the iron lump get close to him unscathed. With the perfect sniping conditions, Laughing Soul aimed at the man's head and fired. But it was a pity that her first shot missed the tiger head by a hair's breadth. Of course, this was because Desert Tiger was moving. If the man was stationary with a sniper rifle with a scope, even a player with F in marksmanship would be able to hit him. This is so troublesome. Laughing Soul licked her lip. She readied the second shot and pulled the trigger. Bang! This time, the target was even closer. Through the scope, it was almost within reach. And this shot had indeed hit its mark. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps it was just luck. This time, not only was Desert Tiger hit, but the bullet also hit its left eye, leaving a black hole on the tiger's face. The moment the bullet hit, it even burst into a ball of sparks. However, Desert Tiger was not an organic creature but a robot with life, so this kind of attack was not fatal. Bang! The third shot. After the shot, Laughing Soul did not even check to see if she had hit the target. She put the sniper rifle back into her inventory and took out a German MP5 submachine gun. She raised the gun and took aim. Even though the gun was a store-bought gun, it was expensive. For a marksmanship player with a certain level of financial ability, this submachine gun was the best choice at the early stages of the game. It weighed less than 3 kilograms, had high firing speed, low recoil, high accuracy, and fast reloading speed. As a mature standard weapon, the MP5 was the first choice of many special forces in the world for a long time due to its reliability and excellent performance. Tat 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 tat. When Desert Tiger was less than 30 meters away from them, Laughing Soul started to rain down the bullets from her submachine gun. The third shot from her sniper rifle had hit the monster's chest, but the armor there was thicker, so the bullet did not penetrate it. It only left a bullet mark. Xiao Tan also took out his Winchester and raised it before his eyes. Even though his heart was racing and his palms were sweating, he was not in a hurry to pull the trigger. After the training in several scenarios, at least Xiao Tan had a certain level of understanding of the characteristics of the weapons that he carried. He knew that the shotgun in his hand had to be fired at close range to maximize its power. If he fired from more than 10 meters away, even if it was not a transformer but an old armored vehicle, he would not be able to cause much damage. The bullets from the MP5 landed on Desert Tiger's front, causing sparks to fly. However, it did not slow down the monster's speed. When it was about 10 meters away from the two players, its two hind legs kicked off, and it leaped into the air. The sun cast the shadow of a large tiger on the sand. In the few seconds that Desert Tiger was in the air, the shadow on the ground changed drastically. Obviously, Desert Tiger had changed shape in midair. The head that was originally in the shape of a tiger opened and twisted, and a robot head poked out from its torso. The four curved beast legs folded at strange angles, compressed, and extended. The mechanical arms inside the torso were exposed, and the tiger-patterned armor attached to the outer layer of the limbs like armor. The bullet holes that had hit his head earlier had been moved to insignificant locations. It looked like his tiger form was used for high-speed movement and for him to take a beating. The whole transformation process was complicated, but it was fast and clean. The tiger that leaped into the air turned into a robot warrior about 6 meters tall before landing on the ground. It charged at the two players. After the transformation, he spoke. An emotionless, mechanical voice said, "Humans, erase, reconstruct." Chapter 128. For Desert Tiger, the nature of human beings was like the multiverse, chaotic and manic. They were driven by survival instinct, the desire to mate, and endless greed, and they would only bring about decay and corruption. Only by destroying and rebuilding them would order return to the light of day. Desert Tiger's attitude toward human beings was like a housewife with misophobia facing the stain on the stove. Once he saw a human, he would not hesitate to clean them clean. Boom! Desert Tiger's fist landed on the sand, and it stirred up a wave of sand. The impact forced Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul back, and they stumbled a distance away. Even though they were not directly hit by the attack, the shock wave caused them to lose 8% of their life points, and they were inflicted with the effect of slow for several seconds. There was another round of cheers. It looked like the audience was very satisfied with the way this executioner greeted the audience. Thunder strike, this is. Feng Bujue held his chin and looked at the livestream on the screen. He mumbled softly, "If the opponent is a transformer, then Xiao Tan's title skill, Bee's Sting, should be useless. It states that it comes with the effect of bleeding, so it won't change into something like oil leak or electricity leak when used on a robot." He titled his head. Laughing Soul's main weapon is a gun. Even though bullets are more useful than swords, facing this kind of opponent, it will be hard to deal with her. Then, on the screen, Desert Tiger had launched his next round of attack. As a robot, seeing the humans before him open fire, if he did not use some heavy firepower, it would be embarrassing for him. A rectangular firing port popped out from each side of his knees, and with two whooshing sounds, two guided missiles flew at the retreating Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul. Boom! Boom! Two smaller explosions blasted out two sand pits and sent a lot of sand into the air. However, Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul were not hit directly. They managed to evade the attack and only suffered some damage from the shockwave. Therefore, missiles, be it intercontinental or miniature, could be used to attack large heat sources, but if they were used to attack living humans, they would not be able to track them. Using a machine gun would be more effective. Hey, Mr. Yu. Feng Bujue moved the microphone away and whispered to Mr. Yu, who was not far away from him. Do you mind if I ask, what is the basis for the allocation of the executioners at the Colosseum? Was it randomly assigned? Or is it based on the race, number, or score of the contestants? Mr. Yu glanced at him and smiled. He did not use the microphone but whispered back, just combine what you said. Hugh. It is based on the power level of those two. Feng Bujue probed. In other words, if contestant Wang had entered the arena alone, he wouldn't have met this guy. Haha. Of course, there is a difference in power level between one person and two. Mr. Yu gave a definite answer. I see. Feng Bujue said. No wonder the fat guy used the phrase, 1 versus 2 bloody mission. It seems that more people entering the arena won't bring any benefit. And if one enters alone, even passing rain won't gain any advantage because the stronger player will encounter the stronger monster. He thought about it for a few seconds. Considering the exhaustion of life points and stamina points, it seems like we should take turns to be the last in the quiz round. That way we can share some of the pressure of the battle. Mr. Yu's yell into the microphone pulled Feng Bujue's attention back to the screen. Look, contestant number 4 is going to fight back. On the screen, Laughing Soul's small figure charged at the robot giant, and she was holding a gun in her hand. Xiao Tan had no idea what Laughing Soul was up to, but he still gathered his courage and ran forward. He kept firing at Desert Tiger to provide cover. Desert Tiger saw his opponent charge forward instead of retreating, so he did not hold back. He swung his giant arm at Laughing Soul. Laughing Soul agilely rolled on the sand to avoid the attack. Then she stood up quickly, knelt on one knee, raised her arms, and aimed the gun at Desert Tiger's chest. Shooting at such a large target at such a distance, Laughing Soul would not miss. She took the risk to get close to the target because she could not afford to miss this shot. The body of the gun glowed with a blinding light, and then, this spear did not make the sound it was supposed to make. Instead, the sound that rang out in the air was actually the long cry of an eagle hunting its prey. The bullet that flew out from the barrel glowed silver and morphed into a glowing silver-winged eagle in midair. It swooped at Desert Tiger's body. In the next second, Desert Tiger's chest seemed to have been hit by an RPG warhead, and an explosion occurred. This 6-meter-tall, several tons heavy robot was actually blown off the ground by the force of the explosion, and fell backward. Name: Goshawk breaks the Sky Skill property. Active skill disappears after one use skill type. Marksmanship effect: imbue the bullet with sorcery energy and fire, causing a large amount of explosive damage to the target. You have to use a handgun to activate this skill, and there must be at least one bullet in the gun. Consumption: 500 stamina points, 50% of maximum sorcery points. Learning requirement: Marksmanship E, Sorcery F, level 10 and above. Remark: a simple and practical skill. Only basic sorcery knowledge is needed to understand the theory behind this skill. The more sorcery energy consumed, the stronger the attack. Gunners with weaker physical abilities would be paralyzed for a short period of time after making a move. The weapon that fired Goshawk breaks the sky will overheat and become unusable for the next 15 minutes. This was the skill that Laughing Soul had used. She had drawn this skill card several scenarios ago and learned it, but she had not had the chance to use it. It was obvious that this was a gamble. Facing the opponent before her, Laughing Soul believed that it was worth the gamble. Her analysis of the situation was accurate, and her action was decisive and effective. Rather than saving this move and being forced to use it when he was in a desperate situation, it was better to use it as soon as possible to decide the outcome of the battle. Even if she failed to kill the monster in one shot, with her life points, there was still room for her to turn the battle around. After firing that shot, Laughing Soul collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. She opened the game menu to confirm it and mumbled, "Tisk! I was indeed inflicted with the paralysis status." On the other hand, Desert Tiger did not stop for even a second. He was a robot, so he would not be like a human being who needed to catch his breath after falling to the ground. After he was shot, his chest was charred black, and the armor plate here was dented and cracked. However, the circuit in his brain used less than a second to calculate the damage and gave him a message: "I can still move." Therefore, he immediately climbed up from the ground. Bang bang bang! Shao Tan saw how bad the situation was. He reloaded and fired as he ran forward, but he was still not fast enough. Desert Tiger's iron fist the size of a refrigerator fell from the sky, and it was aimed at Laughing Soul from above. If the punch landed, there were only 3 words to describe what would happen next: human, meat paste, and white light. Laughing Soul knelt on the ground and saw the shadow coming at her, but there was nothing she could do. Her body refused to listen to her command, and she could not even roll to the side. She could only grit her teeth and prepare for the coming pain simulation. At that moment, a miracle happened. Desert Tiger's movements suddenly became sluggish. It was as if a high-speed camera had captured a scene. Desert Tiger's fist approached at the speed of a tortoise. It felt like he wouldn't die even if he collided with it. The audience gasped in shock. Mr. Yu was someone who knew his stuff. "Oh, everyone, please take a look. It seems like someone has used the sand of time nearby. No, it is just some time dust mixed with impurities. The real sand of time will have more than that." The camera turned, and the audience was shocked to see that it was Hephaestus who said that. So, he could give some serious comments. Shao Tan held the Winchester in one hand, and his other hand was dripping with blood. He had no choice. To use the slowing sand, he had to shatter the glass bottle. He was surrounded by soft sand, so he had no choice but to use his bare hands to shatter the glass bottle. Desert Tiger's fist continued to approach, but the slowing effect helped Shao Tan reach Laughing Soul's location. Without saying a word, he picked up his teammate and ran. He ran for a long distance. "Idiot! Where are you going? Take this chance to hit him." Laughing Soul saw Shao Tan running further and further away like a pig carrying its wife. He had no intention of stopping, so she quickly shouted to remind him. "Oh, understood." It dawned on Shao Tan. He let go and tossed Laughing Soul to the ground. Then he turned and ran back to Desert Tiger. Several seconds after he left, Laughing Soul regained her mobility. She climbed up from the ground with a dark expression. She wiped the sand off her face and took a deep breath. "This big idiot! I'll beat you until you scream for your mother in the killing game." Even though she was angry, she knew her priorities. Now was not the time to argue. Laughing Soul took out the sniper rifle from her inventory. In a few seconds, she was ready to attack and started to aim. Even though Desert Tiger was almost immobilized, she still chose to use the most powerful weapon she had on her. Shao Tan, on the other hand, returned to Desert Tiger's feet. His body nimbly climbed up the robot's arm that had not fully retracted and rushed up to the robot's shoulder. Just as the sand was about to lose its effect, the barrel of the Winchester in Shao Tan's hand was pressed against Desert Tiger's head from 0 distance. Just as he pulled the trigger, Laughing Soul's sniper rifle fired as well. Chapter 129. A large chunk of Desert Tiger's head was knocked off by the Winchester, but the sniper rifle's bullet did not fly toward the head. Laughing Soul was aiming at the chest armor of Desert Tiger, which had been hit by Goshawk Breaks the Sky. The shot successfully drilled through the armor and hit his energy core. There was no explosion, and the monster did not put up any last struggle. Like a home appliance that had its power cut off, it lost its ability to move and stopped responding. Before Shao Tan and Laughing Soul could relax, something else happened. The sun in the sky that blocked their eyes suddenly started to move at a speed visible to the naked eye. The fast movement of the light caused the shadow on the ground to elongate, and the temperature dropped. They lifted their heads to look and saw that the sky above them had been opened. The blue sky was like the lid of a shoe box, and the sun was like a light bulb that was placed inside the lid. But at that moment the lid was being pulled off outside the sky. At an extremely high spot, one could see the ceiling with a black and white checkered pattern. The light that came from an unknown source became like an artificial light source inside the room. It did not take long for a large, honest face to appear. It blocked out the sky and looked down at the two people on the sand. This scene was preposterous, but it also explained many things. A more accurate description would be, this Colosseum was a rectangular box. The bottom was flat, and it was covered with a layer of sand. The four walls and the ceiling were disguised as cardboard that looked no different from the real blue sky. Shao Tan and Laughing Soul were like two ants placed inside the box, and Desert Tiger was just the size of a mini toy. But now, the person outside the box, Mr. Yu, had lifted the top of the box, so the ants inside the box could see the ceiling and the light from outside. When Desert Tiger was killed, the big screen in the studio ended the live broadcast. Naturally, Mr. Yu was still standing on the stage. He had not left. Of course, as a demigod, it was not that difficult for him to appear in two different places at the same time. Shao Tan and Laughing Soul saw the scene above them, and they were so shocked that they could not speak. Mr. Yu merely smiled at them. Then he used his chubby hands to pick up two toy phone booths and place them in the desert. He used a volume that Shao Tan and Laughing Soul could accept to say, "Just go in." Then, he picked up the lid and replaced the sky. The two inside the box looked at each other, and it was Shao Tan who spoke first. No wonder Brother Ju warned us not to mess around. The monsters in this scenario are not only numerous, but they are overpowered. Laughing Soul patted the sand off her face, put away her weapons and replied, "There are too many strange things about this scenario. Until now, we haven't even received the main mission." "That's right. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it," Shao Tan replied. "Anyway, let's do as he says." Laughing Soul had already walked to the phone booth that was closest to her. "We should be able to return to the recording studio after we enter it." "Phew. It's so hot here." Shao Tan put away his weapons and walked into the other phone booth. Both of them were mentally prepared this time, so when they felt the ground beneath their feet suddenly disappear, they did not panic. They just naturally fell into the pitch-black environment. Then, they were pulled by the invisible force and returned to their seats along the slide. They spun and rose up, and once again arrived at the death quiz venue. "Welcome back." Mr. Yu cheered excitedly. The audience cheered as well. "Was that you as well?" Shao Tan asked. "Of course it was me. If I want to, I can appear in many places at the same time. That is not difficult. However, the process of me bringing the two of you back will not be broadcasted here." As Mr. Yu answered, he wandered to the camera. "Dear viewers, if you are interested in my behind-the-scenes work, please send a message to the number at the bottom of the screen or log on to our website to participate in the livestream. At the last year of every 60 years, the show will pick out 600 lucky viewers to receive a limited edition video of our show. It will record some behind-the-scenes footage that you will not be able to see during the livestream. After that, Mr. Yu turned back to the VIP seats and returned to the topic. "Alright, regarding the performance of participants number 2 and number 4 in the Colosseum earlier, I wonder what the 3 VIP guests have to say about them?" The camera panned to Pride, and she said directly, "All men should die." Well said." Laughing Soul mimicked Pride's posture. She crossed her arms before her chest and nodded seriously. "Hey! What have I done?" Shao Tan shouted. There is not much to say about their ability. However, on 2 questions, brother number 2 made the worst choice. Pestilence's comments were always objective and logical. First, you shouldn't have crushed that glass bottle with your bare hands. Second, in reality, the last shot that you fired at Desert Tiger's head was useless. Even if you blew his head off, it would only have destroyed his information collection system. The real killer was the 2 shots from participant number 4. The first shot shattered the armor, and the second shot pierced through his heart. As soon as Pestilence finished speaking, Hephaestus, who was next to him, said, "I say, little brother, breaking the bottle is a very dangerous act. At this moment, the time dust has seeped into the wound on your palm." Hephaestus reminded him seriously. "The time that belongs to your left hand has been overdrawn. If you don't treat it, your hand will soon turn into dust." That's serious. Even though Xiao Tan was confused, he felt like this was something very scary. It doesn't matter. At this moment, the entire audience, including Yu Xian and the 3 guests, all turned to look at the person who said those 3 words. Feng Bujue continued in a matter-of-fact tone. "Consume 1 SCP-500 and it will be cured." Hew. No wonder you're participant number 1. You came up with the solution so quickly. Mr. Yu laughed. Now let us enter the second round of Death Quiz. The DJ played a short but powerful background music, and the lights returned to the center of the stage. The audience cheered and jumped for joy. It was a scene of a group of demons dancing wildly. "Alright, some of the audience, please calm down. Do not spit fire around you or in the air. The guy from D3, yes, it's you. Spit out the cumin monster next to you. Don't think I can't see you. Yes, thank you." Mr. Yu maintained the order and then turned to Feng Bujue. "First, participant number 1, do you still remember what I said? The participant with the highest score in the first round will gain a mysterious advantage." Chapter 130. "Even if you forget, I will not forget," Feng Bujue replied lazily in his chair. Hew. Then, Mr. Yu snapped his fingers, and the control panel before Feng Bujue and the seat he was sitting on started to move forward. Both of them were connected to the floor, but when they moved, the black and white checkered floor disappeared and reappeared like a virtual projection. It was not affected at all. "The second round is a multiple-choice question," Mr. Yu said. "The rule of this round is that the contestants will come forward to answer the questions one by one. Each contestant is allowed to answer at most 7 questions, and they will need to answer at least 1 question." He took out another stack of question cards from his pocket. The picture on the back of the cards was no different from the first round. "After I finish reading the question, the contestants can press the button on the control panel to select the answer. Once they press the button, the answer cannot be changed." Feng Bujue asked, "Does that mean that if I get 1 question wrong, I will not be able to answer the next question?" "Yes, and the mysterious advantage that you obtained in the first round is..." Mr. Yu paused at the crucial moment, and the sound of rushing drums echoed through the hall. It sounded like the accompaniment of a trapeze artist's final jump. "In the second round, you can choose to skip a question at any time and get extra points. Will the contestant with the lowest score still enter the Colosseum in this round?" Feng Bujue asked again. "Haha. The second round." Mr. Yu chuckled darkly. "The contestant with the highest score at the end of this round will choose 1 person to enter the Colosseum. Is that so?" Feng Bujue nodded. "I understand now. Let's begin. Okay, please listen to the first question." Mr. Yu held the question card and said, "The score for this question is 10 points. I have a question. Einstein's birthday is A. March 13th, B. March 14th, C. March 15th, D. April 13th. After he asked the question, he turned to face the camera. We all know that the second round is the most crucial round. If the contestant can answer all 7 questions correctly, there is a high chance that they will gain a huge advantage in points. Feng Bujue was silent for a few seconds without expression before he interrupted Mr. Yu. "I want to skip this question and get extra points." The audience gasped. Mr. Yu smiled. Really? Contestant number 1, do you want to use this chance on the first question? You should know that the questions will only get harder and harder. Yes, Feng Bujue replied calmly. Bonus points. Mr. Yu burned the question card that he was holding, and before Feng Bujue's panel, the number on the screen changed to 60. Next, the second question is 20 points. If you answer correctly, you'll get 20 points. If you answer incorrectly, 20 points will be deducted. Mr. Yu smiled. Participant no. 1. Why would you use this advantage so decisively? In the past, the contestants who came to participate in our program would try their best to save this opportunity for later questions. Because I don't know how to answer this question, Feng Bujue replied. Why don't you guess? It's just a 10-point question. Mr. Yu asked. Feng Bujue replied, this is a very simple mathematical problem. Assuming I don't know any of these questions, if I guess blindly from the first question, if I get it right, I'll get 60 points, and if I get it wrong, I'll get 40 points. But now, if I get it right, I'll get 80 points, and if I get it wrong, the result is the same as if I got it wrong from the first question, 40 points. It's the same 25% chance, and the risk is the same, but the reward is higher. So, of course, I'll use this chance to ensure that I get to the second question first. He paused. Furthermore, if I do know how to answer the second question, then I won't need to guess anymore. Mr. Yu was startled by his explanation. The audience was silent for a few seconds before they erupted in applause and cheers. Phew. Participant number 1 is so calm even when he can't answer the question. Mr. Yu laughed. A burst of laughter came from the audience. This is called using the rules reasonably. Let's continue. Feng Bujue placed his hands behind his head and appeared very relaxed. Okay, participant number 1, starting from the second question, you can choose to answer it or not. Mr. Yu pushed the small round sunglasses on his nose. He looked at Feng Bujue. Based on the theory you've given earlier, even if it's just a guess, you'll give it a try, right? Of course, Feng Bujue replied. Please listen to the question. Mr. Yu looked at the question card. On the 30th of April, 1943, a famous scam in history started. It was Operation Minced Meat. Excuse me, the body that was disguised as a major in the Royal Navy, his real name was A. William Martin, B. Samuel Jackson, C. Grindar Michael, D. Charlie Sheen. Feng Bujue pressed the button for C without hesitation. Mr. Yu said, Participant number 1, once the answer is pressed, it cannot be changed. I know, Feng Bujue replied. The nerve-wracking background music started again, and Mr. Yu looked at the camera with a serious expression. The correct answer is, what are you doing with that constipated look on your face? B and D are the names of the actors, right? Isn't William Martin the fake name used in Operation Minced Meat? Even people who don't know about Operation Minced Meat will choose the name that is more similar to the real name if they have to guess between A and C, Feng Bujue said. Participant number 1. Mr. Yu turned around with annoyance. How about you host this instead? Sure, let's switch seats. I promise I'll send you into the Colosseum, Feng Bujue replied. Oh? That's interesting. If Mr. Yu wishes to enter the Colosseum, why don't you pick one of the three of us to be the executioner? Pestilence, who sat at the VIP table, revealed an amused smile. Pride agreed. That's a good idea. You want me dead? Mr. Yu grumbled. Don't change the topic. I'm announcing the answer. It's C, isn't it? The audience hissed like they had already been exposed. Fine. Since everyone knows the answer now. Mr. Yu's spirits were lifted. The answer is correct. 20 points added. The score on Feng Bujue's panel immediately turned to 80. Looks like this question is not that difficult for participant number 1 at all. Mr. Yu waved his hand to burn the question card. But the next question is worth 40 points. He purposely paused for a few seconds, and the camera panned to Feng Bujue, but Brother Ju did not have much of a reaction. Now, do you regret using the right to skip the question, participant number 1? Mr. Yu asked at the right time. Does that mean the score for the next question will double? Feng Bujue ignored Mr. Yu and continued on his own. Hugh. Who knows? Mr. Yu also played dumb. Humph. Feng Bujue scoffed and answered the man's previous question. If you think you'll regret it, don't do it. If you do it, you won't regret it. Mr. Yu whistled, and the camera used the split screen to give both him and Feng Bujue a close-up. Then, participant number 1, do you wish to answer the third question? Yes, Feng Bujue said. Please listen carefully. Mr. Yu looked at the question card and answered. Which of the following is not Qi Tiandi's skill? A. God's flame, B. God's light, C. God's hand, D. God's punishment. This question was quite confusing. Most of Qi Tiandi's skills started with God's hand. Feng Bujue could not give an answer immediately. He needed to search through the man's memory. Participant number 1, there is no need to rush. There is no time limit for the second round, but normally, if you still can't answer after 3 to 5 minutes, I will count down from 10 seconds and let you pick an answer. After saying that, Mr. Yu turned his face to the center of the stage. How about we ask the other participants to share their thoughts on participant number 1's future in this round while he's still thinking? Of course, if any of you know the answer, don't try to give him any hints, or else he'll be disqualified. He turned to Xiao Tan. Participant number 2, how many questions do you think participant number 1 can answer? Xiao Tan had his head lowered to look at his left hand. So far, there was no obvious change to his hand. Asked by Mr. Yu, he answered without raising his head, I have no idea, but I have confidence in Brother Ju. He should be able to answer all the questions. Participant number 2, participant number 1 is currently leading in terms of points. If he can answer all the questions, then the highest score for the second round will be decided early. What if he chooses you to go to the Colosseum? Mr. Yu tossed out a question that was rather difficult to answer. Xiao Tan raised his head to look at Mr. Yu. Then I'll go. If Brother Ju chooses me, then it means that this is the most logical course of action. Haha. Looks like participant number 2 has a lot of faith in participant number 1's intelligence. Mr. Yu commented before turning to Passing Rain. Then, I'd like to ask your **************. Passing Rain did not even give Mr. Yu a chance to finish. She gave him a I can't be bothered with you answer. Mr. Yu laughed awkwardly and turned to Laughing Soul. Then, participant number 4, do you have anything to say? Leader, if you can really answer all the questions, why don't you choose Xiao Tan? The words were directed at Feng Bujue, but Laughing Soul tossed a wicked smile at Xiao Tan. What have I done wrong? Xiao Tan asked innocently. If you've lost your left hand and have no luck with women, you'll have to rely on your right hand for the rest of your life. Feng Bujue grumbled weakly. Based on his calm demeanor, he probably already had the answer. Mr. Yu's eyes lit up and he said, Oh, participant number 1, that's quite an interesting statement. Can I use it in the future? Up to you. Feng Bujue said. I've already made my choice. Give me the answer. Mr. Yu bent down to look at the answer on the first panel. Feng Bujue had pressed the D button. Okay, participant number 1's answer is D, the judgment of God. Mr. Yu started his usual hosting trick. He did not finish the sentence. Whenever he reached a key point, he would pause for as long as he could. This answer. Chapter 131. Correct. Mr. Yu waited for a long time before announcing the result. The score on the panel continued to increase, and Feng Bujue's score had reached 120 points. The audience cheered and clapped. The sound engineer played a fast-paced soundtrack, and the lights flickered. Haha, looks like participant number 1 is getting better, Mr. Yu said with a smile. Then, the next question he will face is the 4th question. He burned the question card for the 3rd question and glanced at the new question. With a wicked smile on his face, he turned to Feng Bujue and announced, "This question is worth 120 points." The audience gasped, and even Xiao Tan and the rest were shocked when they heard that. Participant number 1, the 4 of you. Mr. Yu looked around. The goal of the 4 of you is survival, not competition. In the 2nd round, it is not important who wins. The real key is who the winner will choose to go to the Colosseum, Mr. Yu said. The points for participants number 2, number 3, and number 4 are respectively 0, 20, and 0. In other words, you now have a huge advantage. As long as they all give up during the 2nd question, you will be guaranteed the 1st place. You mean there is no need for me to continue with the risk of my score returning to 0? Feng Bujue asked. Haha. I am just helping you analyze the situation. If you are the one responsible for coming up with the plan, I believe your teammates will be more than happy to cooperate. You mean teammates? Haha. Since you know from the beginning that our goal is to survive and not fight for the 1st place, then. Feng Bujue's expression shifted, and he tossed a wicked smile at the man. It was as if he was really possessed by Joker, and his tone changed as well. Then I wish to ask, is there any meaning to the arrangement where only the winner gets the prize? We are a team. Does it matter who gets the prize? That. Mr. Yu stuttered. It was not that he was stumped by the question, but that he did not want to answer. Also, as long as you give a hint to the other contestants, the contestant who answers the question will have their points deducted. This rule is obviously designed for teamwork. If it's a competitive game, players won't give each other hints, so there's no need for such a restriction. Feng Bujue scoffed coldly. Humph. If it's not too much trouble for me to come up with this hypothesis. He raised one of his arms to point at the title of the show that was displayed on the big screen. Death Quiz, on the surface, is a game where 4 contestants compete for the 1st place, but in reality, it is a team survival game. Feng Bujue straightened up in his seat and adjusted the microphone. Every round, someone will enter the Colosseum, but that might not lead to death. The Colosseum is merely a trial at the end of every round. Those who do not get the highest score have a chance of entering it. To put it simply, it doesn't matter if you can't answer the question. Those who are good at fighting will still be able to enter the next round. Feng Bujue titled his head and placed his elbow on the console. He stared into Mr. Yu's flickering eyes. So, what we have been through so far is merely a preparation and accumulation for the final round of this game. Perhaps that will be the 3rd round, the 5th round. I have no idea. In any case, the real death quiz is only at the final round, and then. Feng Bujue leaned back in his chair. The points that we have accumulated so far will play a very important role that I am not aware of yet. The audience was completely silent. Other than the monsters that would occasionally make noises, such as the hiccuping monster, the audience was completely silent. Mr. Yu held the microphone, and the lighting technician shone a bright beam of light on him. He walked to stand before the camera, and his face lit up with excitement and a smile. Ladies and gentlemen, participant number 1. This time, Mr. Yu's voice was very soft, but due to the silence, everyone could hear him clearly. He has guessed the change to the rules of the 3rd round. This. He suddenly raised his voice. This is unprecedented. Let us give him a round of applause and cheers. The audience cheered. There was applause, whistling, and wailing. There was even the wailing of werewolves. Mr. Yu shuffled his squat body back to Feng Bujue's console. Unfortunately, I am unable to tell you the actual rules of the last round. I believe I know enough, Feng Bujue said. In any case, the 4th question, 120 points, I choose to answer. Please listen to the question. Mr. Yu raised the question card. Of the following 4 characters, who is the wealthiest? He paused. A. Tony Stark, B. Bruce Wayne, C. Uncle Scrooge, D. Forrest Gump. Feng Bujue immediately pressed the C button. Mr. Yu asked slowly, Your answer is Uncle Scrooge? Of course, that duck is not in the same league as the other 3. Answer. After the expected pause, Mr. Yu said, Correct. Feng Bujue's score reached 240 points, and the audience cheered. Mr. Yu burned the 4th question card. He glanced at the 5th question and said, Participant number 1, if I tell you now that the 5th question is very, very difficult to answer, will you give it up? Why don't you tell me the score for this question first? Feng Bujue naturally would not be tricked so easily. The value of this question is... Mr. Yu's expression suddenly turned strange. 1,000 skill points. The audience and guests did not react much, but when the 4 players heard that, they all had looks of disbelief. What? Skill points? Feng Bujue asked probingly. Of course, what skill points are you talking about? Mr. Yu shrugged and smiled at the camera. The audience also burst into laughter. I want to answer it, Feng Bujue said firmly. Tell me the question. He thought that in this scenario, skill points were a normal concept. Humph. Mr. Yu scoffed and picked up the question card. So far, you have only received 1 type of terror rating in Thriller Paradise. What did you say? Feng Bujue widened his eyes and almost instinctively interrupted Mr. Yu. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Mr. Yu asked in a relaxed tone. What is going on? Feng Bujue asked as he tried to stand up, but Mr. Yu waved his finger lightly, and an invisible force pressed him back into his seat. Who told you to stand up? Mr. Yu used the tone of an adult lecturing a child. Let me finish the question first. At that moment, Xiao Tan, Laughing Soul, and Passing Rain felt an indescribable pressure. The atmosphere of the stage changed. It became oppressive and scary. Mr. Yu continued to read the question that he was holding. So far, you have only received 1 type of terror rating at Thriller Paradise. I'm sorry, but that is A. Embodiment of Courage, B. Commendable Courage, C. Lost in Panic, D. Heart Trembling. Feng Bujue looked at Mr. Yu with suspicion. He slowly reached out his hand and pressed the button for option A. Before Mr. Yu announced the answer, he heard the system announcement. You have obtained 1,000 skill points. Could you be an anomaly? Feng Bujue asked in a whisper. That was his first reaction, but he was wrong. You suspect that I am a creature of a lower dimension than you? Mr. Yu said with a smile. Ha ha. Can you stop joking with me like that? He burned the question card and took out the next one. The 6th question. The reward for answering it correctly is a pass to the inner world of Thriller Paradise. As he spoke, he moved his fingers, and a small black card appeared between his index and middle fingers. If you answer incorrectly, your sorcery weapon will disappear. Feng Bujue's brain was spinning rapidly. Since he entered the scenario, various anomalies had been accumulating, and at that moment, everything seemed to have undergone a qualitative change. Enough. An unfamiliar voice spoke. It was a man in a suit with brown hair. He suddenly appeared in the middle of the stage and stood 1 meter behind Mr. Yu. In that moment, Mr. Yu's expression froze, and the smile froze on his face. The 3 people in the guest seats looked as if they were sitting in the office making jokes when they suddenly saw their leader come in. Their sitting postures and expressions all changed. The audience at the scene was stunned. The bomb called fear had been set up, and they were waiting for that spark to ignite the whole place. Simon stood behind Mr. Yu and looked down at the fat man's neck. Do you plan to talk to me with your back facing me? Ha! Ha ha! I wouldn't dare! I wouldn't dare! Mr. Yu's sweat slid down his cap like a waterfall. Nervousness and fear were written all over his face. Simon then turned his gaze to the cameraman. He did not say a word, just a look, and the translucent spirit let out a painful wail. His body was covered in a layer of strong light, and then he exploded like fireworks, his soul dispersing. Naturally, the camera before him was blown up as well. "Scum, get out of here!" Simon used a voice that was neither too loud nor too soft, and in a tone that brooked no argument, he said that in the middle of the stage. The fiendish creatures in the auditorium screamed like pigs being slaughtered, as if they had just seen a ghost. They scrambled and scrambled toward the exit. For a moment, smoke and dust were billowing, and flesh and blood were flying everywhere. The frames of the exits were basically broken. Some even broke through the walls and escaped through the ground. In less than 30 seconds, only the 4 players, Simon, Mr. Yu, and the 3 VIP guests were left in the studio. "Long time no see, Brother Simon." "Ha ha ha." Hephaestus laughed and tried to get closer. Simon merely replied softly, "Oh, it's you. How is the product that I ordered?" "You know that, Brother Simon, it is very troublesome to create a weapon that suits you. Furthermore, didn't we agree to deliver the goods before the end of the 21st century? But it looks like you have a lot of free time on your hands," he interrupted. "Understood. Understood. I will disappear now. Ha ha. Do as you wish. Ha ha." Hephaestus said that and really disappeared. "I didn't expect you to come to an event like this." Simon moved his gaze back to Pride. "Humph," she scoffed. "You sure are a busybody." "I am here on official business," Simon replied. "If you have something private to tell me, humph." Before he could finish, Pride morphed into a puff of black smoke and left. "Why are you looking at me?" Next, it was Pestilence's turn to meet Simon's gaze. "I just want to watch without saying anything. Can't I?" "You've placed your bet," Simon replied. "Most of the high-ranking members have already placed their bets." Pestilence put on an innocent look. "I am the judge," Simon said. "That is because no one can beat you in a fight, but, there is a but?" Simon repeated darkly. "Fine, fine. I was wrong, I was wrong. Fine, I will leave." Pestilence coughed twice and morphed into a ray of black light. Simon's gaze returned to Mr. Yu. "All right, can you please explain what is the meaning of this?" "Big brother, do you mind if I ask what is going on?" Feng Bujue waved at Simon and interrupted with a sincere expression. Simon glanced at Feng Bujue and snapped his fingers. 1 second later, the bottle of SCP-500 appeared in his hand. He tossed the bottle to Feng Bujue and said, "You have cleared the scenario." Feng Bujue caught the medicine bottle that flew at him. Without looking at its attributes, he asked, "What is going on here?" "This scenario. Don't worry, I promise this will not happen again, at least not in a short period of time." After Simon said that, the 4 players dissolved into white light and were forcibly teleported away. In the login lobby, Feng Bujue opened the team channel. "Have all of you been teleported away as well?" Xiao Tan answered, "Yes." "What was the situation in the scenario earlier?" Laughing Soul's voice appeared. Passing Rain said, "It seems like there was some conflict between the bosses in the scenario, and they chased us away?" "That's weird," Xiao Tan said. "The mission completion rate is 0/00, but the reward for clearing the scenario is so complete. Is this some kind of bug?" Feng Bujue said, "That man in the suit who suddenly appeared, from his tone, he sounded like a GM. Perhaps something big has happened to us." "Then what should we do?" Xiao Tan asked. "What do you mean, what should we do? Didn't we get the reward for clearing the scenario? Even if you ask customer service, they probably won't know anything. You can't complain that we cleared the scenario halfway through, right?" Feng Bujue said. "Don't you think all the terror rating so far is embodiment of valor?" Passing Rain suddenly asked. "Leader, you're not cheating, are you?" Laughing Soul asked. About that. Feng Bujue really did not know how to answer that question. He was not that close to these two girls. They were just friends that he had not met for long in the game. Should he confess to them that he was suffering from some unknown brain disease? However, he thought about it from another perspective. If he came up with an excuse, even if the excuse was temporarily valid, perhaps they would get the truth from Xiao Tan. After some deliberation, Feng Bujue said, "I'm not cheating, and of course, I'm not injected with some kind of tranquilizer to play the game. I just don't feel fear." Once that was said, Passing Rain and Laughing Soul naturally wanted to ask more questions. Before they could ask, Feng Bujue said, "But as for why that is, forgive me for not being able to tell you, and please don't ask Xiao Tan. Consider this a bit of my privacy, and I hope you can keep it a secret." After a period of silence, Passing Rain said, "Okay, let's not talk about this anymore." Hearing that, Laughing Soul added, "I have no problem with that. Don't worry, I'm a tight-lipped person." Thank you. Then, why don't we call it a day?" Feng Bujue asked. "Okay, I'm a bit tired, so I'll be going now," Xiao Tan replied. Passing Rain and Laughing Soul also said that they were going to go offline. The four said their goodbyes and left the game. Several minutes earlier, at the recording studio of Death Quiz, Mr. Simon looked at Simon. Simon looked down at Mr. Yu. "Who gave you the permission to bring them into Death Quiz? Are you planning to give up on this show?" They are just virtual projections. They won't really die." Mr. Yu seemed to want to explain. "What were you trying to do earlier?" Simon asked. "It was Woody who broke the rules first. He allowed Feng Bujue to enter the world of Paili when he was only around level 10, and it was that easy for him to get the sorcery weapon," Mr. Yu explained. "You mean you are helping me correct the consequences of breaking the rules?" Simon asked. Mr. Yu's face blanched. He knew that there was a very dangerous trap hidden in this question. If he answered yes, it would mean that he was exercising his power as a judge. With Simon's personality, as long as he was given a valid reason, he would not hesitate to kill a real god, much less a demigod. "No," Mr. Yu said. "That is not what I meant. You gave him 1,000 skill points, and then prepared to take away his sorcery weapon. You think that will solve the problem?" Simon asked. "What do you think Woody would do if he knew what you were up to?" Mr. Yu was speechless. Simon said coldly, "He would not hesitate to toss the person you bet on into the territory of a level 1 anomaly and force him to drop 10 levels. But, Mr. Yu wanted to say something else. There is nothing wrong with Feng Bujue getting the sorcery weapon. With his power level, there is no need for him to wait until he is level 30 to get it. That is my judgment as the judge," Simon said. "From this moment onward, it is time for you people to stop your dirty trick." He scoffed. "I have completed the modification to the system. The backdoor left behind by Woody is no longer there. You people will not be able to interfere with this anymore, not even for a second," Simon said as he walked toward the main camera on the stage. He stood in front of the camera, and his gaze was as cold as a blade. "The bet has just officially begun. Whoever dares to put his hand on the table will have his hand chopped off." Chapter 132. Is your hand okay? Feng Bujue asked. "Huh? Of course it's okay. Even if it was, it would be a problem with the game character," Xiao Tan replied. "Brother Ju, did you call just to ask me this? I'm still on duty." It was the afternoon of the next day. Feng Bujue was at home talking to Xiao Tan. Of course not, I'm just asking." Feng Bujue immediately got down to business. "It's like this. Today, I went out to talk to the editor about a collaboration that has nothing to do with writing." "What is it?" "The day after tomorrow, which is this Saturday. I'm going to the TV station to record a show. The traffic there is inconvenient. You should be off that day. How about you be my driver?" Feng Bujue said. Xiao Tan was stunned for a moment, then shouted, "Ah! What are you doing?" Feng Bujue's tone was still quite normal. "Did you eat the bacteria petri dish like jelly when you were distracted? You're finally going to be on TV, Brother Ju. Are you going to be popular?" Xiao Tan asked excitedly. "No. You can finally make money without doing anything. You sound like you're saying that I'm going to be in another industry. What I mean is that you can finally live on royalties like those big writers. You don't have to worry about writing every month." "That's why I said no," Feng Bujue said. "Nothing will change. You're overthinking it." Xiao Tan was so excited that he completely ignored Feng Bujue's denial. He asked again, "Right? What show is it, Brother Ju?" "I'm a writer," he replied calmly. I know. I'm asking what show you're going to be on." "I'm a writer," Feng Bujue repeated. Xiao Tan seemed to have short-circuited again. Sigh. Feng Bujue sighed deeply. "That show is called I Am a Writer. It's a variety show where the contestants compete to eliminate each other." "Who else is going to participate besides you?" Xiao Tan said. "I don't know and I don't care," Feng Bujue replied. Xiao Tan slammed the table and laughed. "Ha ha! Brother Ju, you're really domineering. I don't know if it's because the information of the other contestants is confidential," Feng Bujue said. "I don't want to because it's useless even if I do. Personally, I hope to be eliminated in one round so that I don't have to go again." "Don't. It's a rare opportunity to be on TV. I don't like to appear in crowded places, and I don't want to leave too much video data," Feng Bujue said. "It's because the appearance fee is quite high. That's why Brother Ju, did you tell Master Bao?" Xiao Tan said. "No, even if I told him, you would have called him anyway, so I'll leave it to you to tell him." Feng Bujue paused and said, "Let me emphasize, you can just talk to Master Bao about this. Don't spread it around." "Why would I?" Xiao Tan raised his voice. "I remember when my first book was published, even the owner of the fruit store 5 or 6 streets away from your house knew about it," Feng Bujue said. Ha! Ha ha! "About that, then. It's settled. Drive me there on Saturday at noon, and then you'll have nothing to do. Because I don't know how long the recording will take, I'll go back by myself after it ends. Anyway, I still have money in my transportation card," Feng Bujue said. "Can I go in and watch?" Xiao Tan asked. "No. Really, no." "Okay," Xiao Tan said disappointedly. "When will the show be broadcast?" "I don't know." "Forget it, I'll look it up on the internet." "You continue to be on duty. I'll talk to you tonight." Feng Bujue maintained a weak tone from beginning to end. Okay, bye. Bye." After the phone call ended, Feng Bujue sighed deeply again. "Well, I can only pray that this kid will stop before he goes too far." 2 hours later, someone knocked on the door. Feng Bujue answered, "Coming." He walked to the door. Unexpectedly, as soon as he reached the door, the person outside opened the door with a key. "I say, Auntie Lu, if you're not going to wait for me to open the door, why did you knock?" Feng Bujue asked. The landlord, Auntie Lu, was standing at the door. "You young people have privacy. What if there's a girl in your house? What if you're doing something shameful? So I knocked first, and when I heard you say yes, I knew I could come in. What you said is contradictory, and your logic can easily lead to misunderstandings. Don't talk to me about that." Auntie Lu looked at him up and down. "I heard you're going to shoot a movie?" The first word that came out of Feng Bujue's mouth was F***ck. But he just sighed and replied, "Who told you that?" "I heard it from Auntie Wang at the market." Auntie Lu began to talk non-stop. "Hey Feng, my granddaughter is 10 years old this year, and she's very talented in acting." Feng Bujue really wanted to bang his head on the door frame. "Auntie Lu. First of all, I'm just going to the TV station to record a variety show. It'll only take a few hours. When the show airs on TV, it'll be edited into a few dozen minutes, and my scenes will only add up to a few minutes. He took a deep breath and continued, Second, even if I'm going to shoot a movie, I don't have the ability to arrange for your granddaughter to act in it. I'll have to find a producer. Ah? Is that so? Auntie Lou was stunned. How come I heard from the neighborhood security guard that you're going to write, direct, and act in it yourself? From what she said, it seemed that there were more than one or two people who were spreading false rumors. Okay. You're overthinking it. Feng Bujue quickly waved his hands. Rumors. Pure rumors. I'm not doing that for a living, and I'm not interested in entering the entertainment industry. I'm just going to participate in a variety show, the kind with awards. Oh. Auntie Lou nodded. Hey? Feng, when will the show air? What do you want to do? What's wrong? It's rare for an acquaintance to appear on TV. Can't I take a look? Okay. Feng Bujue didn't know what to do with her. I'll record it on Saturday, and I'll ask the program crew after I'm done. Don't worry, in a few days I'll send you this month's rent, the money I owe on the cat, and the news of the show. Is that okay? Then it's a deal. I'll wait for your news. Auntie Lou replied. Okay. See you later. Feng Bujue coaxed and pushed her away and closed the door. He leaned against the door and sighed. The efficiency of spreading rumors is amazing. In another 48 hours, I think people will believe that I'm going abroad to win an Oscar. He shook his head, went back to his room, and bolted all 3 locks behind the door, including the chain lock. Then he went to the game cabin, took off his shoes, and lay down. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.